Reyes Cruz. Adrianita Reyes Cruz. David Samperio. Is he by chance in attendees? No, I don't see him there. Okay. Angela Sumner.
Here.
Chris Valle.
Here.
Okay, we have 13, so we definitely have a quorum.
Victor, can we make an announcement too
Thank
that
you.
those
Thank
that are
you,
students,
Chair.
those that are
Let's
students,
come to order.
raise their
Let's come to order. Yeah, let us come to order now. Welcome. Thank you, Secretary, for calling the roll. I understand that there might be some students
or several.
attending for service hours. That's excellent. We really welcome you to this local forum for grassroots democracy. And just as a reminder, we have a very full and quality agenda for you tonight. And so many people will be presenting and making comment. And whenever someone does have a comment, they will raise their hand and be recognized by the chair or the vice chair. And then they will speak. And let's try to respect everyone speaking when they have the floor and not have any crosstalk. Please mute yourselves if you're not currently speaking on the floor. Okay, then, Madam Treasurer, what was your comment on these students?
We're required to turn in to Mr. Bunky who the students are that attend. So I need a list of who is a student. So I need them all to raise their hands if they are students.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. Okay, so I'll just take a screenshot of that. Leave your hands up.
Thank you for your patience while we do that.
Okay, and I have a screenshot. There.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Let's move on then to the first item for us, which is public comment on non-agenda items. So if anyone has any general public comment on any item that's not on the agenda today or on any topic, you may raise your hand now, and then me and the other executive officers will identify you, and then we will hear your comments. So we will look at that right now. Go ahead, Laurie Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, board. We've been notified that San Pedro High School students will once again be attending, as you can see, Neighborhood Council board and committee meetings. These are government students earning service hours while learning about the grassroots work of a neighborhood council and local government. It's crucial that this board set a good example to our stakeholders and to these students by focusing on improving the quality of life for us and our neighbors. Recent board meetings have included some crude language, finger pointing, disparaging remarks, bullying, and mean-spirited criticism with little to no suggestions of any solutions. There are just a few board members who consistently demonstrate this unacceptable and childish behavior. Board members took an oath of office to respect, value, and consider everyone's opinion and to encourage other points of view, even when they differ from your own. This bad behavior is a direct violation of the oath taken. Most of the board are well-intentioned, respectful, and open-minded individuals who choose to volunteer their time with honesty and integrity. I hope that these wonderful and dedicated board members can continue to set the best example of collaborative and respectful behavior in their work. Let's not let a few bad apples spoil the whole bunch. Words and actions have meanings and consequences. Please encourage all to set a better example to our future generation who are watching and learning from you. Stop the bad behavior nonsense now. Stop the personal vendettas and focus on what you took an oath to accomplish. Your beliefs don't make you a better person. Your behavior does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead with our several commenters potentially. Again, this is general comment And so we'll take it out alphabetically. And I saw there is a Jeffrey. So Jeffrey, go ahead and make your comment.
Jeffrey, did you want to make
Okay.
a comment or was your hand
It's
raised?
on his hand. I don't know if he put it back down.
Okay.
If he doesn't comment in the next 5 seconds, we'll move on to the next person in the queue.
Well, let's just double check everyone who has their hand raised does wish to make a comment. If you had your hand raised for attendance, you can lower it now.
Okay, I see a Kay Hartman. Kay Hartman, do you want to make a comment?
I do. So thank you for the opportunity. I want to announce that registration is open for the September 25th Congress of Neighborhoods. Please visit our webpage at neighborhoodcongress.la and follow the link to register. We really want to see you there. The Los Angeles Congress of Neighborhoods brings together leaders from the city's 99 neighborhood councils for a day of networking and education. The event provides neighborhood council leaders with the tools to establish the relationships they need to build a successful future for their communities. The theme for the 2021 event is Leading Change Together. There will be multiple sessions from different angles to discuss implicit biases, the budget, including the people's budget and the city budget, city planning, outreach, including a session in Spanish about reaching Spanish-speaking stakeholders, and climate change. We've got sessions on building a strong committee structure to prevent meetings running until midnight, what to do when a board member behaves badly, hot legal issues, NPGs, election feedback, and much, much more. On top of all of this, there will be a lounge, which will be in another Zoom room where people can gather and network, and there will be a full-on exhibitor fair. So visit neighborhoodcongress.la and register now for the September 25th Congress of Neighborhoods. You won't want to miss this, and please spread the word to your colleagues because they won't want to miss it either. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Wilcox, please make your comment.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me? Good. This is Rob Wilcox, and I am running to be your Los Angeles City Controller in the 2022 elections. I am a former Deputy City Controller to City Controller Laura Chick for 7 years. And for the last 8 years, I've been Director of Community Engagement and Outreach for City Attorney Mike Feuer. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I love this city, as all of you do. Sometimes I don't even recognize it. We are a city in crisis. And the City Controller, well, City Controller is probably one of the most consequential city offices. The truth teller, the inspector general, the taxpayer's watchdog can look at anything and especially ask and answer the questions, how are we doing? How can we do it better? The controller can put together a plan. We don't have one right now, a comprehensive strategic plan on homelessness. It's a scattershot approach, council district by council district. This is Emergency Preparedness Month. How are we doing as a city being prepared for, we know it's only a matter of time, a big quake? I can ask those questions and get you answers, and then also put together the roadmaps for change and deliver them to our city leaders. I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting and talking with all of you in person. I'm going to be visiting and campaigning San Pedro many times. In fact, I'll be at the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce breakfast next week. Please go to my website to learn more about me and my campaign at robforcontroller.com. That's Rob, FORcontroller.com. I'm Rob Wilcox. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. We'll have Summer and then Erica. Summer, was there a Summer? Did you want to make comment? And if not, Erica. Okay, I also see an Andrew. Andrew, do you want to make comment? Okay, Mr. Secretary, did you have a comment on a non-agenda item?
Yes, for those who don't already know, there are a series of 4 sessions to go over the proposed amendment to the Code of Conduct. The first one already happened this past Saturday. The next 3 are the September 22nd at 7 p.m., October 19th at 6:30 p.m., and November 6th at 1 p.m. I believe they're all scheduled for about an hour and a half each. So if you want to, and you can find more information about that and to RSVP, I believe, on the Neighborhood Council's webpage on the calendar. I don't know if all 4 of them are up there, but the first 2 are. So if you want to listen in and make your comments known on what you think about the Code of Conduct, that's the place to do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to Erica. Erica, did you want to make comment? Or Andrew, did you want to make comment? Andrew. I think he put his hand down. Okay. Madam Treasurer, did you want to make comment?
Yeah, I think Erica's having problems unmuting. She's from Alma Farms, Backyard Farms, and she
Okay,
put
let's
something in chat.
try to figure that out then. Did you have anything else, Madam Treasurer?
That was it. I just wanted to let you know. She put something in chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's try it again. Erica, sometimes
Yes,
it takes a second. Okay, there we go. We can hear you.
you
Excellent.
can hear me. Great. Okay. My name is Erica Cuellar and I'm representing Alma Backyard Farms. We have recently opened our location here in San Pedro, and so we are happy to be joining all of you. We are a nonprofit organization that provides access to good food and opportunities. We are open every other Sunday. So this coming Sunday will be open in San Pedro from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we have fresh organic produce that we are growing and some that we are supplementing from our partner farms. We also have locally baked bread and other provisions. But we'd love it if folks can come out, check us out, support our work. And we are, we have a youth program for school-age children. We have a job training program for folks who are incarcerated, and our farm stand is our way to bring good food to the community and to connect folks back to the land and to each other. So thank you for the opportunity to share, and we hope that we will see you around this coming Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do one more check for public comments. Oh, I see a few actually. Noah Isaac, and then Douglas Epperhart after that. Was there a Noah Isaac? I think I saw him. Okay, go ahead, Doug. Are you here, Doug?
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Christian. I just want to reiterate what Kay Hartman said about the Congress of Neighborhood Councils and let you know that I am involved in 2 of the panels. I will be talking about neighborhood council board members behaving badly, and I promise I won't use any examples of anybody from San Pedro, or maybe I will. And the second one is the city's barriers to effective neighborhood council work, where we'll be talking about some of the roadblocks and obstacles that get thrown at neighborhood councils by our well-meaning bureaucrats in the city of Los Angeles. So, you know, because nobody has anything else to do on a Saturday in September, I recommend that you go register for the Neighborhood Council Congress this year. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Yes, Councilperson Henry, did you want to make comment?
Yes, thank you. Well, Erica, thank you for attending. Erica, again, with Alma Backyard Farms. I don't know if she gave the address, but it's approximately 1227 West Sepulveda Street. That's right near Holy Trinity. The cross street is Hanford and Sepulveda, and it's hard to miss. It's a beautiful garden. I also was going to announce the San Pedro Community Garden is over on 1400 North Gaffey Street. That's within the Department of Sanitation area over there. Don't forget to take your recycling, your toxic recycling over there and your electronics. There is a spot over there. But the garden itself is one of the oldest in the in Los Angeles. It has recently been reconfigured, and there are going to be elections this upcoming Saturday. If anybody wants to just check it out and check out some of the people that garden there, just come on along. And once again, it's at 1400 North Gaffey Street. I would say the entrance is pretty darn close to Target. You'll have to look at it. It's on the other side. There's an entryway. Okay, thanks.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Balderrama, did you want to make a comment on something not on the agenda?
Yes, some technical issues took me 45 minutes to get on. Said I had a wrong IP address. An address that was sent to me. That's why I'm late.
Okay, well, thank you for attending. We appreciate it. Welcome. Let's move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is public officials reports. I know that we have several in attendance, which is very good. And then we have two on the agenda itself, which is a congressional representative to talk about the cleanup of illegal DDT, and then perhaps someone on the homeless encampment cleanups. So let's take the congressional representative first, and you'll have 5 minutes each for those that are on the agenda listed. Go ahead, and I believe your name is Jeanette. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Jeanette, I think you still have to unmute.
Hi, can you?
We heard hello, and then you broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I think she was becoming a panelist. She had that invitation, so she'll probably pop right over.
That's interesting. I saw her as panelist. And
She might be joining. In the meantime, after she goes, I think I saw Joanna Rodriguez, Octaviano Rios as well. So we'll take them after if the representative from the sanitation department is not here.
Yeah, Jeanette is still having problems. She did pop in and pop out.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take the sanitation representative. Is there anyone here from the sanitation department that'd like to make a 5-minute presentation on the homelessness encampments cleanup? And if we'll raise your hand if you haven't been promoted to a panelist already or allowed to talk. We will check it out.
That would be Armando Cabrera, and I am not certain. I do not see him on here unless he is.
Sorry. All I can say is that I live in Long Beach, and President Biden's landing right now. So I don't know if that's why I'm having the worst technical difficulties of my life. I've been on Zoom all day and I keep getting kicked off. So hopefully you can hear me now.
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hey, hi. I'm so sorry. Hopefully he's landed. He's safe at Long Beach City College giving his rally. But my name is Jeanette Christian. I'm here with Senator Feinstein's office. Gwendolyn Henry had invited me to kind of share some updates on DDT. I wasn't sure how much background everyone had, so I did have a PowerPoint if you want to try to share that, or we can just get right into kind of the history and talk a little bit more about what our office and a lot of the other local offices are doing to address this issue. Can we do the PowerPoint, or should we?
Now I'm unmuted. Yeah, let me figure out how to allow you to share. We'll work. You can get started and I'll try and get you connected.
Yeah, we could probably just make her a co-host, I guess. Whoever has that ability can make her a co-host.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing mine, and Jeanette, you should be good to go.
Everyone, I want to keep apologizing. I don't know if it's because, like I said, Biden's in town and I just keep getting kicked off my secure line. So I'm just going to keep going and talk about the problem. If I can share PowerPoint, let me know. But right now, I can just quickly start and give a little bit of background. In the fall of 2020, the Los Angeles Times reported, I'm sure y'all read that the UC Santa Barbara scientists discovered industrial waste barrels, and it was about 12 miles off the coast of California. And what everyone had done is looked at the historical records and the UC Santa Barbara data and discovered that it was likely that there's hundreds and thousands of barrels that were dumped in the ocean. And most of it is assumed it's by Montrose Chemical Corporation, and it's DDT. And it's important to remember that DDT was banned in 1972, but before that, it was legal to dump in our oceans. So only in 1972 was it banned by the US EPA. Now, what the senator did after she read the article was the next day called the head of the EPA and the Commerce Department, which oversees NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and asked them to investigate. They obviously had kind of heard about the problem. It's been a decades-long issue, but because it's deep ocean, it hasn't been something that people have been able to access until recently. So in March of 2021, at the request of Senator Feinstein, she asked the DOJ to assist Scripps and NOAA and UC Santa Barbara, and they launched a mission down to look at one of the known dump sites called Dump Site 2. And that was around 3,000 feet deep, which is deep ocean. It's very complicated. It was a really hard mission to get because it was kind of the height of the COVID epidemic. And there was 31 crew members of scientists and engineers, and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and it kept getting canceled because of positive outbreaks. But fortunately, the 2-week expedition was able to prove useful in some senses, and everyone was able to do the 2-week mission. They mapped 36,000 acres of seafloor. That's kind of the size of San Francisco. In 2 weeks, and they did find obviously the DDT in the sediment and in the ecosystem, and just mapped the area. The target was selected because of historical records from the companies who, like I said, it was legal to dump DDT, and what the UC Santa Barbara scientists discovered. The purpose of the expedition was to really see exactly how many barrels were down there. They used these deep water Roombas to kind of 2 weeks of just using sonar and Roombas to kind of see where the barrels were and be able to get really great pictures. After that, the senator held a congressional hearing to kind of share the results from the Scripps scientists and from NOAA and San Diego State University people to share what the findings were. Unfortunately, this was just a mapping expedition. There's not a lot of information of how many, how to remove the DDT barrels from the ocean right now, but I know I only have 5 minutes. I'm trying to go quick, and I know I have technical difficulties. But the next steps looks like we need a second mission to Dump Site 2, where we conduct sampling of the sediment, the water, and the barrel contents. And the senator is very supportive of interagency collaboration, so we're working with the state, NOAA, and EPA to figure out which barrels can be removed and how the dump sites, how how many dump sites we can survey in the next mission. But right now, the Senate is in appropriations process, and obviously we're looking at appropriations and a huge infrastructure bill. So we're trying to find different funding for these agencies. So it's a $20 million project at the least to get one dump site mapped. So I'll go ahead and take questions. I know I went really quickly and I shared a lot of information.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll take a couple questions. John DeMeglio.
Yeah, hi. How far off the coast is it? And that they were dumped when it was still legal to dump? Is that correct?
Unfortunately, they were dumped when it was legal. So before 1972, it's kind of started in the 50s. Obviously, DDT was a very popular pesticide before people knew how harmful the effects were. So it was normal to be dumped. They would take honestly, they realized, even in records, it showed that people wouldn't even go to the furthest place they were supposed to dump. They would kind of be lazy and puncture holes and just throw it over kind of like halfway. So there's kind of this, right now it's only been found in federal waters, but they haven't necessarily mapped the state waters that it's in. So yes, it was dumped before, and it was then dumped illegally, most likely. They can't tell from the condition of the barrels, like when exactly, and they haven't, they don't, the records I don't think are good enough to figure out, oh, this one was dumped in 65 versus this one was dumped in 75. But in general, it was dumped legally and illegally from the last few decades.
How many miles off the coast?
Right now, they were found 12 miles off the coast. So people, we've been told by Catalina not to say off the coast of Catalina or off the coast of San Pedro, but I have a map which I can send to Gwendolyn to share with you guys. But it's kind of right in that, it's close to the Superfund site. So it's not necessarily the Superfund site, it's close to it, but it's right like 12 miles off the coast.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll take Angela and then Dan.
Were they able to determine anything about how well the DDT is contained in the barrels? I mean, is it?
We see it kind of linking, but they weren't able to take, they weren't sampling. So unfortunately, DDT is heavier than water. So they know it's not necessarily moving right now. And that's why swimming is okay, because it's kind of on the bottom of the ocean, or in its deep ocean. But obviously this affects marine life and the circle of life. So they've obviously found it in dolphin blubber. In the past, they found it in a lot of our sea creatures down there in different studies that have happened. So it's really important, like Heal the Bay is doing a big campaign to make sure the anglers and everyone's aware of obviously this issue. When it was banned, we obviously saw a lot of the populations successful again because it was banned. So it was like less of the dumping. Like I said, I don't think anyone's dumping right now because it's not being produced. But when the scientists who've been studying this obviously saw an improvement past 1972, but in the past it was obviously it affects bald eagles. It affects, I mean, there's been studies about, breast cancer in women who are around that time. But swimming is, like I said, should be fine, but it's really about our consumption of a fish. You shouldn't, what Heal the Bay has told me is we shouldn't eat fish from caught there daily.
Wow.
Okay, let's go to Dan and then we'll have one more from Council Member Henry and then we'll move on to the next public official.
Thanks, Jeanette. You've at least partially answered this, but this you say is outside of a Superfund site so that they can't do any of this work using existing Superfund money, that it all has to be new funding. Is that correct?
Right now, there's not a determination that it can be part of the Superfund site. It's definitely a conversation. It's obviously the same players. It's the same people who know what's going on. In some of the briefings we've had with NOAA and with EPA, I think I saw this in a question was sent to me previously. The DOJ, the people who prosecuted Montrose years ago, are the same lawyers who are taking a look at this now. Montrose is not a place. I don't know if we can go after them because, like I said, after 1972, it was banned and they weren't dumping. We don't have record of them dumping. But I mean, there is conversation of possibly adding it to the Superfund side, but that would be definitely require more dollars. And we definitely need to map. And we've only mapped one dump site. And there's 12 known dump sites. And that's just known. That's where people were telling us where they're dumping. from historical data. I definitely think it's a huge issue, and we're going to need a lot more funding from the feds, which we are working on. And I know that state offices are actually taking a look too. There's high-level conversations from the state offices as well as obviously our office to figure out how an interagency effort would work, because it's right now it's obviously in federal waters, but it's not like the difference between federal and state is that different sometimes.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you, Jeanette.
One last
Thank you,
question.
Jeanette.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilmember Henry.
Thank you, Jeanette. For those of you in high school, if you want to have a good link, I believe that everyone can have access to this latimes.com website. I wish I could copy and paste it into Q&A, but it's LA-projects/LA-coast-DDT-dumping-ground. So I would love to I could put it in notes for those of you who want to put it in Q&A, and I will respond with that link. Jeanette, I know that a lot of high-powered players like Hale, the Bay, and Scripps are going to be involved with this. Will local groups, there are many local entities educationally, as well as you know, the Marine Mammal Care Center. Well, will the local entities who are here right off the borders of the DDT spill be enlisted in this? For example, USC, Dorn's Life, the Wrigley Center, that's a college effort.
I know Marine Life has done, I mean, they're probably working with Scripps and UC Santa Barbara. I think a lot of it to actually do the mission is going to, I mean, they had to use sonar from the DOJ, or I'm sorry, the Department of Defense. So I do think some of the mission and the mapping, but I definitely think education and awareness, Heal the Bay would be happy to work with anyone. I know they're also working with LA Waterkeepers. I'm sure some of those organizations are definitely doing some research. They haven't necessarily reached out about what research they're doing besides, we talked to UC Santa Barbara and Scripps a lot because they have scientists who are studying it, but I'm sure those other organizations, if they want to be involved, we would definitely be happy to have them involved. I'm just not quite sure if they can do Dr. Valentine from UC Santa Barbara only found this because he had extra time on a mission he already had funded. So he decided to go looking for it, because it was like folklore that it was out there.
Okay, well, thank you for answering the questions.
Yeah,
We really
sorry.
appreciate you attending
Technical
tonight. I
difficulties.
think that the Sustainability Committee or the full board could hopefully work on this in the future if we get the opportunity. So let's keep in touch, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Mr. President, David Samperi has been promoted to panelist. He was in attendance, but I didn't know he was in the other room.
Very good. Do we have someone from the sanitation department here to talk about the encampment issue?
Don't think I see Armando at the moment, but a companion public report would be Arturo Salinas. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. He's from Patrick O'Donnell's office and would have a companion comment for the public officers' reports that would go with Jeanette Feinstein's.
Okay, well, let's take his comment and then we'll move on to Joanna Rodriguez and then Octaviano Rios. What was the name again? Just so I make sure that they
That's
are here.
Arturo. He's right there. AS.
Okay.
AS icon. That's Arturo from Patrick O'Donnell's office.
Go ahead, Arturo.
Hello, thank you for having me to comment tonight on behalf of Assemblymember O'Donnell's office. Normally, we would have someone from our district office here, but it's a very busy night in Long Beach, and so a lot of our folks are occupied with other things at the moment, and so I'm appreciate the opportunity to be here in their stead. And so I wanted to give you all an update on a few things that the Assemblymember has been working on in the last few weeks that you all have expressed interest in. As you probably are, many of you are aware, the legislature ended its session last week. Last Friday was the end of consideration of bills before they were to be sent on to the governor. And so that was the end of consideration of a number of pieces of legislation. So a number of the things the Assemblymember has been working on are coming to their close, so to speak. One of which being AJR 2, which is the Assemblymember's joint resolution memorializing Congress, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and the President, Vice President to take all necessary actions to mitigate the damage from the DDT dumping site that was recently discovered in the San Pedro Basin off the Los Angeles coast. That resolution passed both houses. It passed out of the Senate 2 weeks ago and then was passed on a concurrence vote in the Assembly last week. And so now that that's been passed, that will be sent to our partners at the federal level. And sort of concludes what for the Assemblymember was a large part of an educational effort for his fellow members and Californians about this issue, and that something needed to be done on it. As sort of an additional development on that, the Assemblymember has amended one of his other bills, Assembly Bill 1553, to establish a sort of public oversight, light governance body called the Southern Los Angeles Ocean Chemical Waste Community Oversight Council, the goal of which is to oversee the science and potential mitigation plans that could come for the dump site 2 as more research proposals regarding the site come forward and completed, and sort of give also a venue for the public to engage with different agency officials to collaborate on a plan to mitigate the damage from this site. It is still in its very early development stages. It is primarily going to be used over the course of the next few months by our office and other parties as an avenue for having a conversation about what something like this should look like, with the goal of having some sort of legislation that can be run in the coming year that would establish some sort of governance and coordination and public venue for discussions around this issue. So that's a good positive new development on that front. In addition, I wanted to update on AB 78, which is the Assemblymember's bill expanding the territory of the Rivers and Mountains, the San Gabriel and Lower Los Angeles Rivers and Mountains Conservancy to include both Catalina Island and the Dominguez Channel watershed. Unfortunately, that bill was held in Senate Appropriations Committee. It was determined to have have cost pressures in the millions for the new areas, potentially needing additional projects and additional funding for those projects. And so that unfortunately did not get out. Conversations about what to do on that issue going forward are early as far as what to be considered for next year. And so we don't necessarily have something to determine at this time, but the Assemblymember definitely has been very motivated on this issue and trying to get that territory expanded to get more funding available to the areas around in the South Bay and to Catalina Island to provide more access to open space and more park space and more open space preservation projects. So that is an update on some of the things the Assemblymember is doing. I'm happy to answer any questions from the council at your pleasure.
I appreciate that. For the sake of time, I think we're gonna thank you again for your report, and then move on to our
Mr.
next
President,
public official.
I do see a hand raised from Diana Nave.
All right, well, if it's the pleasure of the board, we could take one question each then from the public officials that are coming next. So let's take Diana, and then we'll move on to the next public official.
Thank you. I actually don't have a question. I just want to thank the Assemblyman for his support of our position, which was to oppose Senate Bills 9 and 10. And I want to thank him for voting no on those two bills.
Okay.
Appreciate the thanks. I'll be happy to pass that along to the Assembly member.
Joanna Rodriguez, are you here today?
Yes, I am. Are you guys able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, hi everyone. This is Joanna Rodriguez. I am the Harbor and Watts representative for Mayor Garcetti. I'm so happy to be here. I was actually on medical leave for a little bit over a month, so I'm like really happy just to even jump on these calls. So I know I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to be very brief because I have a couple of things I want to touch on. The first one is on the COVID-19 renters relief. The application recently opened on September 1st. So I do want to just share a little bit of what has happened, because we did open the renters assistance application a couple months ago. It closed due to funding, and now there's another round, and that's why September 1st that this new window opened. So a couple weeks ago, the mayor did announce a new partnership between the city and the state. And what this really does, it helps the city tap into more funding. It's $5.2 billion in emergency rental relief fund that is now available for all Angelenos. So do want to just make sure everyone knows that if you guys could just whenever you are in any other meetings, that you share this with folks. This COVID-19 renters relief is available for anyone that has any unpaid rent, but also this time it includes utilities. So if you're behind in utilities, you can also apply. One thing that was recently shared with us is that the housing court will be beginning to accept. We'll start taking eviction requests starting October 1st. So we are encouraging everyone to start, if you are planning on applying, that you do try to do so before September 30th. Again, it's more of a, in case you, because of starting October 1st, people will start getting eviction notices. Folks will have about 15 days to apply for the COVID-19 eviction, but just to prevent from any heartaches, you can just go and apply right now. So please, 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 if you are interested or behind in rent or in your utilities, that you apply for this resource that is now available now. So the website is housingiskey.com, or you can call this phone number. It's 833-430-2122. I'll make sure that Christian gets this information so he can share it with everyone. And then another thing that I did want to mention is that the Mayor's Youth Council is looking for high school students. I know that there's high school students on this call. I oversee this amazing program. It's usually we recruit about 200 high school students throughout the city of LA, and it's divided by cohorts. So in the area that I cover, Watson Harbor, I'm looking for five high school students from the San Pedro area. So if you're interested, you can email me directly, or you can just go to lamayor.org/MYC, which stands for the Mayor's Youth Council. So I think that's about 5 minutes. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Appreciate that. Council Member Henry.
Hi, Joanne. Has the council put in any motions to support Joint Resolution 2 on DDT? It would be really great if the mayor of Los Angeles supported that. And I don't know if the city has also supported the funding of the Rivers Conservancy, AB 78. We're coming to the end of the calendar year. This is the third time that it's been tried to put in front of the state legislature, and it's kind of been held up. If it doesn't pass, I hope that it will make it through a motion and on the mayor's desk. I believe it did the first time around, but it might have gotten missed this time.
Okay, and you said the last one is AB 78.
It's currently AB 78, yes, Assembly Bill 78. It changes each session, so hopefully it will make it. And if not, I'll probably give you a holler, because it's, you know, reestablishing the watershed would really be of great benefit to our part of the watershed.
Perfect. So I will get back to you, Gwendolyn. So let me just touch base. I do actually had a call with Public Works, so I do want to connect with them to get in. Since I was gone for a little bit over a month, I want to catch up on some issues around environment. So what I'll do is I'll email you and then email you and CC Christian, and you guys can share this with the rest of the group if that's okay with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Let's move on to the next public official. Octaviano Rios, are you here?
I have a question for her.
I see John DeMiglio's hand.
I understand. If it's the pleasure of the board, then we'll take one more question before we move on. So Joanna, if you're still here, go ahead, John.
Hi, John. Are you still there? I was wondering what the process was for a renter to apply, and how do they actually obtain the money that they need to, either it goes into their account or to the landlord's account, or how does that process work?
Thank you for that question. Usually the funding will go to the landlord. So, so thank you so much for bringing that up, because we are encouraging both renters and landlords to apply. And in terms of the utilities, this is, I'd have to get back to you, John. I don't know, I don't have your contact information, but I can double check on that. If you can either reach out to Christian, or you can share your information with Christian or Gwendolyn. I know they always reach out to me. I can contact you directly, if that's okay.
Can I give you my phone number now?
Of course. What is it?
310-283-3494. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll give you a call this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a very packed agenda. Octaviano Rios, are you here to give a report?
I am. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to jump right into it. Good evening, everybody. I'm Octaviano Rios with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. I do have some important updates, mostly administrative, but I did want to highlight in case you weren't able to read thoroughly through your neighborhood council profiles earlier this month. Virtual meetings, just a reminder, back on Monday, June 21st, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners set a policy that allowed neighborhood councils to meet virtually until December 31st. It has been brought to our attention recently that the state's temporary modifications to the Brown Act will expire at the end of September. So what this means for neighborhood councils, that if the state takes no action, we are asking neighborhood councils to prepare to start meeting in person come October. So we can talk about the details in between, and we'll keep you, of course, updated. But at the very least, we're asking our neighborhood councils to reach out to your regularly, your brick and mortar locations, where you used to meet, whether it was a library, a school, and just set those wheels in motion with hopefully establishing and securing those facilities to meet in person. As you know, neighborhood councils aren't required to meet every month. So, and we're not sure if we're prepared as a department to provide the continued support in person. So we're going to work with each other hand in hand to hopefully get a more smooth transition and see what the state decides in terms of these restrictions being lifted or not. Now, with regards to Cornerstone, there are some technical challenges we've been faced with, and you should expect from the department an email that changes your username. Cornerstone, as a reminder, is the city's platform to access access your trainings, both required and optional trainings. So you're going to get a new username, and you will be asked to set a new password. So wait for that email, and know that once you get that username, that will be the old one will not work anymore. If you have any questions or challenges with that, let us know. And administratively, ADA accessibility inspections are required. The department will be reaching out in partnership with the Department of Disability and the City Clerk's Office and NC Funding to fill out a form that specifies your meeting locations, as well as contact information on those point people on the board that will be working with the city to fill out this ADA accessibility inspection form. So, and this is all in preparation of meeting in person. So in light of the earlier news, it might accelerate a little bit faster than we thought. But again, you have all of our support, and we'll work through it hand in hand. And last but not least, bylaw amendments. I had previously shared that the deadline to submit your board-approved bylaw amendments would be next year, April 15th. The department made a mistake. It's actually April 1st. So that'll be the actual deadline to submit your neighborhood council approved bylaw amendments. Not April 15th, but April 1st. And then we're still receiving, as well as the commission, feedback from boards on the communications policy, the draft digital communications policy, as well as the draft proposed amendments to the 2016 Code of Conduct policy. That concludes my report. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and board members.
Very good. Mr. Vice President.
I believe the secretary, I'm sorry, our treasurer had her hand raised before me.
Okay, Madam Treasurer.
Hi, Octaviano. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I have some up-to-date information to add to what you said.
Okay.
I'm part of the EVG hybrid working group, and we just met tonight. And so one of the things that's more up to date that they come up with tonight that they announced that Raquel did is that September 13th, the state legislature passed 361, and it's on the governor's desk for signature at this time. Also, they passed 339 on September 9th, and that's also on the governor's desk for signature. What this means is this will extend virtual meetings and allow us possibly also to go hybrid for until like it's 2024.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, so this, but the governor's got to sign it. But there's stuff in place that they're looking at now with the city attorney where the mayor can put emergency order in until the governor signs it if he doesn't sign it fast enough by the time this expires the end of September.
Thank you, Melanie, for that update. Very timely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
you. Okay, Mr. Vice President.
Hi, thanks, Octaviano. In case the governor's reprieve does not come through, and we are either, I guess we're put in a position where we have to choose to go back in person with all of the logistical challenges thereof, or opt not to have meetings. Is there any more specific guidance or preparation assistance that Dunn is going to be able to give us? Because I'm thinking some really broad things in terms of like a checklist or stuff that you can anticipate we're going to need in terms of health and safety, in terms of legal issues, because in some ways we may be starting from scratch, depending on where people have been holding their meetings. I'm just kind of projecting this across the whole entire city. Some people are going to public facilities. We happen to have used a city parks location. And so what gets passed down from the state has to then go through the county and the city and then to individual departments. So are there going to be guidelines that we can take to a venue and to try and get their cooperation? Because, for instance, the two places we've used recently, Peck Park Auditorium and the police station at Harbor, may not be available to us pending their policies. And so wherever it is we do go, it would be very helpful, and I'm assuming other groups may have the same types of issues, that we're going to need to know what it is specifically we have to do, because I get the feeling that there's going to be 99 different ways to try and address this, and it's going to mushroom very quickly.
No, thanks for the feedback, Chris. Appreciate it. Our general manager is very hands-on. Do appreciate that leadership style on her end. She has been working with other departments, like the libraries. That department in particular has opened up, and we may lean on them to share some of their feedback on opening up earlier than a lot of other departments that have been shut down, quote unquote, during the pandemic. So that's a relationship we have. And then with the parks, I haven't heard anything about our relationship or what if they're opening up anything more than they have, besides the grassy areas, but their actual facilities where you meet. So we'll keep you posted. I have very little information to share, but I know that a checklist might be a good idea. Maybe even dust off some of those old checklists that we've had in the past, or even improve on them, since it has been a long time, right? So I can use a refresher on some of those requirements. But the ADA requirements is probably one of the more important ones for accessibility purposes for all our community members. But if you have any other needs, let's stay in contact with each other, and we'll play it week by week. And I know the COVID and the variants out there, there's different stats being floated around and increases in certain communities that may not want to meet in person still. So there's that pressure as well to maybe continue on virtually. So, and then in line with Melanie's update, maybe we're leaning towards maybe extending it a little bit more, hopefully with the state's approval. So we'll stay in touch with each other on that, though. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Stay safe, Octaviano. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Let's move on to, yes, what's that, Madam Treasurer?
I have one more thing to add. I can add to Christian's questions. With the EVG group, hybrid group, we're addressing all those things that you asked, Chris. There's going to be a checklist, as well as I've requested that they do a budget that they send to every neighborhood council to tell them what budget they're in to get up to speed. And those that already have equipment will have a checkoff where, okay, we don't need this to do the hybrid, but we're going to need this, and we know where our budget is, because right now city council is not paying for any of this. The other thing is that there's going to be a lot of compliance things that we're going to have to come to, and the neighborhood councils board members, as I've stated to them and other people that are on this committee, that we can't be the COVID police. And so there's going to have to be some direction and some sort of like sergeant in arms or something that's going to be the COVID police. But the other part of this is they've said that they won't make us go back while COVID is a problem.
Okay, appreciate that feedback.
So
let's move on to Augie Bezmalinovich from the Los Angeles Harbor Department.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Augie Bezmalinovich from the Port of Los Angeles. The next Board of Harbor Commission meeting that was scheduled this Thursday has been postponed till next Thursday, September 23rd. It's going to take place at 9 a.m. and it's via video conference. At this meeting, Port staff will be discussing the Port Access Investment Plan, PAIP, something that your neighborhood council worked on, talking about the projects, when we have extra money left, what projects that you guys like to see. It's going to be an informational report only. There's no action to be taken. And then the Board of Harbor Commission meetings will start up live again in October. Octaviano talked about that. And so our Board of Harbor Commission meetings will go up live starting in October, with the first one scheduled for Thursday, October 7th at 9 a.m. There's a draft initial study negative declaration for the Terminal Way Chassis Support Facility project. And this is going to be circulated for a 30-day review period starting September 16th. The proposed project would permit the operation of the chassis support facility at a heavy industrial zone site in a heavy industrialized setting. The property would operate as a chassis depot that provides storage, maintenance, repairs, and stop-start functions of chassis. The proposed project involves operation of the existing 15.3 acre site. The document will be available on our website, www.portoflosangeles.org, under the environmental tab. Waterfront update. A lot of progress has been made on the Promenade and Town Square project, and we anticipate it being done very soon. You might have read today's article that was in the Daily Breeze that talks about this project. It was delayed by a month or so. We had some pavers that were on back order, and that's what delayed the opening. But we plan on doing a Promenade and Town Square plaque unveiling on Thursday, October 21st at 11:30 a.m. And that's going to happen just south of the LA Maritime Museum. The Berth 44 shipyard project has made progress by having a signed term sheet and agreement on an environmental reimbursement. The project is expected to cost between 20 and 25 million on 3 to 4 acres of land. And a term sheet is close at the Cabrillo Way Marina, and they will need to go through an environmental process there. We're hopeful that interest will come back on the outer cruise terminal along with Warehouse 1. And you also might have read some stuff recently about the San Pedro Fish Market, and they're looking at moving and creating a new facility along the cruise ship promenade under the Vincent Thomas Bridge. They will be working on parking and traffic issues, and there will be an EIR that needs to go along with that project. And finally, Saturday, September 25th, the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium Grand Gala will happen between 5 to 11. Our executive director at the Port of Los Angeles, Gene Soroka, will be honored. For tickets, you'd have to go to the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium and get your purchase your tickets there. And that pretty much concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
I see hand raised
Okay,
from Johanna
thank you.
Rodriguez, but I'm not sure what that was referring to.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see if there are any questions for Mr. Bezmalinovich. I don't think there are. Joanna, did you want to make a brief comment?
Yes, and it wasn't for Augie, but Augie, it's so nice to see you. It was in response to this was in response to John's early question earlier today about about the emergency renters assistance. So just to answer the question, because I know that there's a couple people who might have the same question. The landlord will be getting the money. So yes, so landlord will get that money, and then in terms of utilities, it will, when you're submitting your request for help to pay your utilities, you'll input the account information, so the company itself will get the funding. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So, Diana, did you have a question for Augie?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Augie, my question has to do with the West Harbor proposed amphitheater, and has the EIR for that, what's the status of the EIR for that project?
I heard that it was being postponed. So that's the latest, but now with this big announcement that happened a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure if they're starting it up again.
Can you check on that for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Let's, one more council member, Henry.
No, never mind. Never mind.
Okay, very good. Let's move on then to the next item, which is our public safety reports. So I think we have in attendance Officer Dan. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So just a quick note to the board, I sent a brief summary of the August 2021 crime statistics. I trust that you guys all got that. I know there's a lot on your agenda, so I'll just, before I get into it, I'll just ask you to go over everything, or I think the intent was to kind of reduce the amount of time that gets used up on this kind of stuff. So I can just open it to questions, or how would you prefer?
Give the highlights and then we'll take a couple questions.
Okay, so just a real short, the highlights are the overall crime rate in the Northwest San Pedro area was up 56% overall, just the raw numbers. Last year, we had 16 Part 1 crimes in August. This year, we had 25. So it's a very significant increase that was driven entirely by burglary from motor vehicles and simple thefts, both of which more than doubled. So that was what was driving the crime. As I've mentioned before, my area that I'm personally responsible for includes areas of Central San Pedro as well. So if you throw all those numbers in, it was a 10% overall crime increase. Again, it was driven mostly by property crimes, not so much violent crimes. But it was a total of 43 Part 1 crimes this year compared to 39 last year. So nothing really that I can point to as far as like a trend or one particular crew that was going around. Just one of those things where I'm not sure what's driving the crime numbers, but it seems like each month it's something different. But one thing I do see is catalytic converters are still constantly being taken. We had 5 in our area last month. So that's something that we're addressing actively right now with our detectives. And then we've also been hosting a couple of catalytic converter etching events where we engrave an identifier on catalytic converters in hopes of linking those to an actual victim. And we have another one that we are going to be scheduling shortly for next month. So when I have more details on that, I'll get it out to you, but I'll leave it there for open it for questions.
Excellent. John DeMaglio. John DeMaglio, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I didn't mute myself. Hi, Dan. Is there more crime in the Northwest than there is in Central?
That's a good question. I don't know that there is more. It would be hard for me to, I could find out there now. I don't have the numbers for all of Central San Pedro's neighborhood council area. Just looking at the numbers, there were 18 crimes in my portion of Central and 25 crimes in all of Northwest. My portion of Central, though, doesn't include anything east of Pacific. So I suspect there's probably a little more crime in Central San Pedro than in Northwest, but I wouldn't know for sure unless I looked at those numbers, which I can get, but I don't know. That's not something I normally have access to generally.
Okay, I just wanted to know what the difference was. Thank you again.
Sure.
Appreciate
no problem.
Excellent. Thank you for that report. Very, very helpful. Let's move on now to the CPAB report by Madam Treasurer Melanie Lebrecht.
Yeah, this was submitted and it's online and it's a 2-page report. So I'm not going to go over the whole thing. I'm just going to highlight some of the things that the captain said. Quality of life cars are coming back, and there will be 4 quality of life cars to start out August 31st, which that's passed. And 2 old officers and 2 new officers will be doing this. As of September 27th, 2021, there will be 2 more added, so a total of 6. And the sole purpose of the other extra 2 that'll be added will be homeless cleanups, and for and homelessness, a total of 6, like I said, quality life officers. New budget for LAPD item is going to be violent crime reduction detail. Crime suppression detail basically is what it's going to be called. This will be conducted at Rancho San Pedro downtown area. This will be late night patrols, as this is when a lot of activity seems to be happening. The gang detectives are asking anyone in that area that has cameras to contact them. New budget from LAPD also is a homeless crime task force. These patrols will be tied to bridge home areas. Directed patrols will deal with homelessness encampments and issues adjacent to bridge home perimeters. LAPD Harbor Division met with school principals regarding gang reduction and youth development. They also discussed safety and traffic for schools and their plan. They will have increased presence at drop-off and pickup locations of the schools. As you know, Fleet Week was canceled. Homeless encampment cleanups are showing reduction in residents. McCoy encampment showing great improvement. Manu has taken a shelter at the Harbor College tiny. Many have taken shelter at the Harbor College tiny homes. And that's pretty much, and then the rest is of different areas. I want to state here also, when I give these reports for CPAB, these are notes from a meeting, like your notes from your board meetings. These are not my statements or my words or anything. These are notes from a meeting. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, appreciate that. And I saw Scott Gaines. Did you want to give a report? Go ahead, Scott, if you're available.
Scott, I don't see that you're muted, but we cannot hear you. So you're open on our end, but I'm not sure if it's your settings or there's another issue.
Well, we can always come back to him. Let's take up the consent calendar, and then after the consent calendar, we'll come on back and allow Scott Gaines to make his report. So now we have the consent calendar before you, and there's a few items on it. Mr. Vice President, if you'd like to make a motion, that would be good.
Sorry, I'm spinning multiple plates here. I move then that we accept the items on the consent calendar. Let me switch to that screen.
Okay, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's
I
been
heard
moved and
Thomas
seconded.
Norman.
Yes, that is correct. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar. Mr. Secretary, you may take the roll.
Hey, Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, yes. John DiMiglio,
Yes.
Dan Dixon. Uh-oh,
Yes.
Dan Dixon. Okay. Craig Goldfarb,
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne,
Yes.
Christian Guzman,
I'll abstain.
Gwen Henry,
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Yes.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Yes.
David Samperio,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Of those in attendance, it's unanimous except for one abstention. So it carries.
Very good, Mr. Secretary. Let's move back to Scott Gaines. Scott Gaines, are you here, and would you like to give a report?
How is it now?
We can hear you. Very good.
Sounds good.
Okay, I don't know what I did. I hit a bunch of buttons and here I am. Okay, like Officer Brown stated, the catalytic converters are been a big problem down our area too. We were part of the etching event. We're looking forward to working with them on the next etching event. We actually did have a slew of fires at 22nd Street Park, and we actually caught the suspect about 5 days ago. So hopefully it's a one-person deal, and he's currently in custody at 77th Division. And also just let you all know that there is the SoCal Hoedown that's going to take place this Saturday. It's going to be at Berth 46. It's a combination of mostly punk rock and well, pretty much punk rock and speed metal type music. All right, so we have some fans over there. And that's going to be from 12 p.m. to roughly 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. So right now they were up to 2,200 tickets sold. They're expecting possibly 500 more at the gate. So we're looking somewhere in the ballpark of 3,000 people down there.
Very good. Mr. Norman, you have a question?
Yeah, quick question for Officer Gaines. Did you say you think you've apprehended the person who was causing fires? Was that including the one in Peck Park that we saw a few weeks ago?
No, this is just in the 22nd Street Park area and Block Field, which is directly across from 22nd Street Park. We were having a rash of small brush fires that were being started. People would see a person start. By the time we'd get there, he'd blend into the ether. He was one of the local people experiencing homelessness. He actually ran from one of our officers before. It was a slight use of force, and we put a bolo out for him, and then we found out that he actually had a possible ADW from the past. So we found him again, and we caught him this time. So that should take care of it for a little bit. If there's any more that pop up, we'll take care of it, but there hasn't been anything since.
Thank you.
I see Benny Esparza has a hand raised.
Yes, do you have a question?
We can't hear you, just in case you need to unmute.
Okay, let's take John Barbera and then we'll move back to Benny.
Hey, Officer Gaines, I just want to know. Okay. I'm not a ventriloquist, so don't worry. I wasn't. I just want to know, I just want to know. I said you got the music this weekend, and I just curious because it's punk music and stuff. Is there going to be a mosh pit?
We were told that there will not be a mosh pit this time. It created some problems back in 2019. A couple of people got roughed up, which is typical of mosh pits. But this time they mentioned that there is no mosh pit. There should have adequate security personnel to take care of that. If there is some type of pit that starts, then we could take care of it and make sure that they shut it down so that it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, it wasn't good last time. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Benny, are you available?
He was on for a moment, and now I do not see.
Okay, then. Well, let's move on then to our committee reports. And first up, we have Diana Nave with the Planning Committee. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you promote me to a panelist for my reports? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. And then if you would also promote Jason Herring. Jason is going to be giving part of the Planning Committee report tonight.
Yeah, I got it.
But I would like to start with item 3. That is the motion that has to do with the CIS. Chris, if you could put that one up. It's the one that's CF 21-2002 and opposition to AB 1401.
Do you know which item number it is?
Well, it's 7A III, but under 7A III, there are 3 items. So it's the one that says CIS.
Stand by.
This item is a motion to adopt the proposed resolution regarding Assembly Bill 1401, to file it as a community impact statement in support of the council file, and to forward a copy of it to the Councilman Buscayano and to our state representatives. AB 1401 is a proposed state law that would bar cities from having any minimum parking requirements for residential or commercial projects within a half a mile of transit. And Councilmember Koretz has introduced a motion asking the city to oppose it. AB 1401 is basically a giveaway to developers and does nothing to address affordable housing. But the worst part is that it undermines the city's transit-oriented communities program. The TOC program gives developers reduced parking requirements in exchange for providing a
Point
percentage.
of order, we're having discussion. We haven't had a motion yet.
I gave you the motion. The motion is to adopt. the
Thank you,
proposed resolution.
Mr. Goldfarb. She's giving the report, and then when she's concluding the report, then we will take a motion. Okay. Diane, are you finished with the report?
Just the last, one last sentence is the more affordable. Well, this is another example of attempts by the state to address local land use issues. So the resolution before you opposes AB 1401 and supports the council motion to have the city oppose it. The actual motion, as I said at the beginning, is to adopt the proposed resolution, file it as a community impact statement in support of the council file, and forward a copy to Councilman Buscayano and our state representatives.
Thank you. This is out of committee then? Is there discussion? If you have discussion, raise your hand and we will take you one by one. I see Mr. John DeMiglio. Go ahead.
Still muted.
Go ahead, Mr. DeMiglio.
John, you need to unmute.
Yeah, are we voting on this saying that if we vote no, meaning that we are saying that we want more parking?
If you vote yes on this, it would be basically saying you want more parking. If you vote no on this, it would encourage the state to do away with the parking requirements within a half mile of transit.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Raise your hand and we will call you one by one. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Sorry about that. Armando Balarama.
Yes, I'd like to vote on, I forgot if it was yes or no, but the one that keeps restriction on the parking.
Yes. Voting yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, yes. John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Greg Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Jane Henry.
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
David Samperio.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Christian Guzman.
I'll vote yes.
It is unanimous. It carries.
Thank you. The next two items are going to be presented by Jason Herring. Jason is the co-chair of our planning committee, and you also just appointed him to be on the port committee. So I thought it was a great time for the council to meet him and let him present 2 of the resolutions that he actually wrote and have also been approved by our committee. So Jason?
Am I sharing another document for this?
Jason?
Yes. Do you want me to share or is?
I have them up. I just need to know which ones.
There's a 7-Eleven project Gaffey Capital. Up 2 or 3. There you go. All right, so this letter is a comment on the project to remodel the 7-Eleven at Gaffey Capital. They're going to rebuild it. Initial plans were not to have any electric charge stations or solar panels on site. Since we originally made comment on this, I became aware of 7-Eleven's corporate policy where they are promoting electric charging stations at several hundred different locations around the country. This one obviously was not singled out amongst those, and also sustainability and reducing carbon footprint initiatives. So this letter is to encourage this 7-Eleven remodel to include these features, which are specified for some other locations around the country, just not this particular one.
Okay, very good. So we'll take comment now. And if anyone would like to make comment, raise your hand. We'll take it one by one. I saw Mr. Secretary first. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, clarification question. This is basically a pro EV letter and not related to the existence or non-existence of a gas station itself, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, Mr. DeMaglio.
Yeah, I want to make that clear also. Is there going to be gas and electric hookups, or what is the ratio on that, if it is?
Their initial plan was to have just refueling station there, and we were encouraging them to add a couple of charging stations, which originally they said were exorbitantly expensive, which was some developer number that we questioned very strongly. And then they came back later and said, well, we might run conduit, but we're not going to put in the charging stations yet, but we'll make them charging station ready. And then since that time, maybe a month after that presentation by their developer, we became aware that 7-Eleven corporate is actually encouraging 2 charging stations per filling station, or 7-Eleven location at 200 odd locations around the country, 250 locations around the country and Canada. And so we thought, well, if your corporate is encouraging this, maybe we can get you to kind of fall in line with the corporate direction. So there would be a mix. I don't think there was any mandate to remove the gasoline, but at least to get the charging stations in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Pat Nave.
Hi. I'm unclear on one thing, and that is, what is it that you're asking the neighborhood council to do? My view is that this position ought to be added to at least as strongly as the letter we already sent them about some changes that we want done. And at this point, we should be kind of insistent, because they really kind of they could have been more open with us, it seems to me.
Yeah, I was proposing this would be an addendum to what was earlier submitted with new information that has become aware to the committee.
Thank you.
Council Member Henry.
Just want to thank you for finding this corporate policy and really honing it down in regards to their reply to the negative, and that thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. DeMaglio, did you want to make one more comment?
Yes, I just wondered, thank you. I don't know if you would be able to answer this question, or Diane Nave. Do they have plans to put electric hookups in Target also?
When Target, when the marketplace at Target presented to us, they told us that there are electric hookups at Target. I would have to go look, but they told us they already existed because we asked that question of them. So we can go check.
Thank you.
Okay. This is out of committee, I believe.
Yep.
Mr. Secretary, go ahead and take the roll.
Armando Balderrama,
Yes. Yes.
Vic Christensen, yes. John D'Amiglio,
Yes.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne,
Abstain.
Gwen Henry,
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Abstain.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Yes.
David Samperio,
Abstain.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle,
Yes.
Christian Guzman,
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, we have 10 ayes, 4 abstentions, and 1 not voted.
You
So
didn't ask for me.
I did ask for you, John Barbera, right?
No,
Who said that?
I did.
What are you doing to me?
You went to Armando and he answered twice, and then you went to D'Amiglio.
John, you forgot John Barbera.
Anyway, yes.
No, I said John Barbera. Did Armando answer? Because I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I didn't answer. I didn't hear my name.
Very good. We're still learning names here after all these years. It takes a while.
I said the names. If you didn't hear them, check your hearing.
Maybe it was a little bit of a
Anyway,
glitch.
it carries.
Faces are easier to remember, in my opinion. But thank you, John, for voting, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for taking the roll.
If we use faces, then everybody would be, hey, you.
What is the result of the vote, Mr. Secretary?
Wait,
I said that 10 ayes, 4 abstentions, and 1 not voted. So it carries.
Who's the not vote?
John Barbera.
I think the intent was, Mr. Secretary, if there's no objection, count Mr. Barbera as voting yes, because he said that he was voting yes. So,
Okay, somebody's not hearing me because I called John's name, John Barbera, and he voted yes. Before that, I called Armando, he did not vote. So
Yes, I did.
yeah, I heard him vote yes as well.
There was
So they both voted yes.
slight electronic glitch as the
Okay,
yeses
then
were being
11
spoken.
with 4 extensions, it still carries.
Very good. Very good. Okay, thank you,
Twilight
Armando.
Zone.
Thank you, John Barbera, for hanging in there with us. Okay, the next item, Madam Planning Chair, go ahead.
Item 7A.
Or Mr. Herring,
double
yes,
I.
please.
I'm sorry, say again?
7A double I TOC transit guarantee. Up to. There you go.
Go up just a little bit more, right there.
Okay, this motion is for resolve that the neighborhood councils, we presented this at the joint. Insists that the city planning department coordinates with Metro to ensure all transit-oriented communities remain serviced by the designated transit under which the incentives were granted through and after the completion of the project for at least 5 years. We've had several situations in which TOC bonuses were awarded and then transit was cut, to which they would no longer qualify before the project was even completed, but had already been approved or broken ground. So this is an attempt to correct that.
Very good. Any discussion? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Council Member Henry.
In regards to that, in the creation of the oriented community development and the guarantees of qualifying transit, are there any restrictions on the time in which they can do that? You know, they could say that we're going to continue to qualify have guarantees of qualifying transit for economically disadvantaged communities, but if there's no time limit on it, you know, they could do it for 25 years from now. Does anybody see that as an issue?
Well, on each project, on a per project basis, when they go to apply for these bonuses, they look at what's available at that moment. And if it's available, they say, okay, great. You don't have to have 200 spots, you only need 50 spots. But then the next week after that, they were awarded that incentive. It could be that the bus that was normally going to that station was canceled, or the headway was reduced such that it didn't qualify anymore. And so now it's no longer a transit-oriented community, but the project was already awarded, so they can go ahead and build this thing with insufficient parking and insufficient transit.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary.
In the last paragraph, first line, last word, do we really have the authority or power to insist? Do we have any way of enforcing that, or can we just strongly recommend, encourage, or something along those lines? Is that really the right word to use?
If it's all right with you, Jason, I think we could change that to say recommend. And then you'd have to say coordinate. We normally recommend. You're right about that. Jason, would that be all right with you?
Sure.
Should we have a motion for an amendment?
If there's no objection, since it's a just small change in the wording and not really changing the intent very substantially, let's just include it as amended now then. Madam Treasurer.
Yeah, I remember when Metro came and spoke to our neighborhood council, and they were like, oh, San Pedro's not included in this, that they left us out of the whole plan, and it like stops at pretty much at Torrance or so. And then down here we're forgotten about. And somehow with all the building that we're doing right now here in San Pedro, we've got to have more than buses that get people around. We need mass transit down here. And I don't understand why the rail isn't coming all the way down to San Pedro. And when it was brought up to them, they said, well, it's not part of the 10-year plan. Maybe the next 10 years we'll look at it.
And in the 2009 long-term study, they did look at different routes into San Pedro. We qualified as good, but not excellent overall for ridership potential. That was in 2009 or 7, I forget. I have a copy of the study if you'd like to see it. However, in light of all the changes in development, I would love to see that changed. And I think we should start to apply that pressure. You're right.
You're here.
Pat Nave, and then Mr. DeMaglio.
I don't have any problem with the word insists. I know they kind of made it as an administrative change without a vote, but look, these tactics where these plans where they come up with a TOC plan and so forth, all of that is kind of a part of our local community plan, which goes through extensive work in our community and then gets adopted as an ordinance of the city of Los Angeles. So I don't have any problem with us insisting on some follow through when they try to change things. My 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. John DeMaglio, and then Council Member Craig Goldfarb.
I want to clarify, I want to clarify, are they saying that they're giving out bonuses and eliminating bus lines? Is that correct?
That has happened.
That is happening.
That has happened.
And then we're voting on this that you have now, saying that we don't want it to happen. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this is a yes vote saying that we don't want it to happen?
The voting yes for this means that if they make a commitment to a transit-oriented bonus, that whatever qualified it for that commitment must stay in place for at least 5 years after the project is in production.
And voting no on it would mean?
They can continue to hand out these bonuses and then cut the bus lines, and then there's no parking.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Council Member Craig Goldfarb, and then Mr. Vice President.
And mute. Okay. I just wanted to point out that, as Melanie pointed out, they have no real transit plans for San Pedro. Passing all this stuff, we need to be concentrating on we already know if you're in land use and planning, you already know what the plans are for downtown and how they're trying to increase the population down here. But if we're behind the thing, we're not going to have the transportation. We've got all the, they're doing all the other stuff. We don't have transportation. You can't get from one side of San Pedro to another, even walking. And, we need to be leading this instead of following it. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Mr. Vice President.
Thanks. Yeah, just to expand a little bit on what Melanie and indeed what Craig had just mentioned. I remember when the representative from Metro came and spoke to the board a couple of years ago. This was Measure M, which is a gigantic amount of money for infrastructure and construction projects that has, amongst other things, put light rail all the way out to Azusa and Pomona. But at that time, and this was, I believe, a 30 or 40-year plan, not just 10. They literally did not have us on their map. I think the Silver Line, which is a bus, was about the extent of it, and I don't think that it was expanded at the time. It was more or less continuing what they had. And so I think, long story short, this is a higher level political consideration because these sorts of things happen at the level of the Metro board, which means that we would need to organize significant political pressure on our county supervisor, and then however else it can be done to lobby and address the board on that level. Now, I don't know that there's anything that can be done about these things, which are almost literally, etched in stone at this point, but that's when and where it happened, which was like, literally downtown, very many miles away. And, I believe that their cutoff for development was about the Redondo Beach area. So if we want that to change for any time in the foreseeable future, the pressure would have to be significant and well organized and immediate because it takes that long for these things to move.
Okay, if it's the pleasure of the board, we'll take a couple more comments then. I think I saw Pat for a second round and then Councilmember Henry after that.
Pat, I don't believe that you are unmuted.
Pat, Nave, do you have another comment or did you just forget to put your hand down?
He didn't. He
I
said he
forgot to put my
didn't.
hand up, and I can't recover my screen either. Yeah, I don't have a comment.
Then I will.
Okay, let's move on. Yes.
To Chris Valle's point, I believe that yes, it is the next 30 years. That's the plan, and nothing but the Silver Line was established for this area. I believe with this supports an argument for low growth within San Pedro. we cannot sustain large growth in a place where we are surrounded by Pacific Ocean. There is no commute out to the Pacific Ocean. We have several routes, pretty much one. So I believe that this policy with the transit corridors can continually be used as a mantra for low growth. And we really should concentrate on First Street as a corridor through RPV and some others, and continue to hone in on those, getting the pressures off of those streets, and better traffic management throughout San Pedro.
Okay, Dan Dixon and then Jason Herring.
Unfortunately, I think this argument was lost in 1909 when San Pedro was absorbed into the Board of Los Angeles. It has been a continuing issue for the last 110 years and will continue to be. Everything that everybody has said, the last 4 or 5 speakers, is absolutely correct. They're spot on. At the very least, I would agree with Pat to change that word back to insists. And that is certainly the spirit with which I will vote for this. Thank you.
Okay, Jason.
Yeah, I have a map from that study. If anyone cares to see it, I can share it now, which shows some of the alternatives coming down to San Pedro, if the council is in mind.
Stand by, let me. Do I need to make him? I need to make a co-host to do that.
Yeah, and then after that, if we can take that as a motion from Dan, we could, and if we have a second, we could have a formal vote on the wording if we so choose. So we'll cover that after Jason Herring's comment on this.
Yeah, so here's part of the 2009 study. You can still see the red car was in existence at that time. And they looked at 2 different alternative routes coming into San Pedro, where they planned to come down to roughly the downtown area with the final terminus of the Green Line at the time. So the route is continuing. They've got funding to get it to Torrance right now, to roughly Old Town Torrance. So the eventual conclusion of this will be to come farther in. It's just a matter of time and money until it gets there. However, as has been duly noted, there is a lot of development going on here, new hotels, lots of new units, and there's no faster way to get in and out of town besides the 110 and the 47. And there's very little room to expand either of those. This also dovetails with the port's removal of the red car track, which, and putting a park there, which boxes in harbor, so it cannot be widened or have any alternative transit next to it, including where theoretically Metro would run the train. So it seems like we have a lot of work to do here, but this is their plan as of 12 years ago.
And imagine the public safety evacuation plan issue.
Okay, very good. Dan, would you like to make that a motion then to revert the wording back to the original?
Yes, I move that we change the word back to insists.
When Henry seconds that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Vice President.
Yeah, just in support of Dan's motion, that if it's already been, enshrined in ordinance, then we should really insist that they behave as though they meant what they wrote down. So.
Good.
Mr. Secretary, would you take the roll, please?
Armando Balderrama,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, yes. John DiMiglio,
Yes.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne,
Yes.
Christian Guzman,
I'll vote yes.
Gwen Henry,
Yes.
Melanie Lebrecq,
Yes.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Yes.
David Samperio,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
It is unanimous. It carries.
Very good.
Thank you all. And you can see why he's such a valuable member of the Planning and Land Use Committee and will be a great member, I think, for the Support Committee. I did have a couple updates I wanted to give. The first one is on Target.
Wait, point of order?
Excuse me?
Yes, for what purpose does the gentleman rise a point of order?
Were we not voting on only the switching of the wording, not the entire document?
He's right.
Yes, you are correct, Mr. Secretary. Thank you. If there's no objection, we'll take that as the vote for the final document as well, though. Is there an objection to that, or shall we consider it passed? Okay, so that other one passes as well. So the amended motion passes just as the amendment did, for the minute's sake. Continue, Diana.
Okay, it's actually the original motion, so it was great. Yeah, I wanted to give you an update on Target. As some of you are aware, Target is requesting a lot split because they want to sell off 1/2 acre of their parking lot to a group currently calling themselves the San Pedro Marketplace at Target. The current plan calls for a drive-through Starbucks and a Habit restaurant. When the plan was presented at the Planning and Land Use Committee, there were a lot of concerns raised. The biggest concern is the proposed location within the parking lot. They're proposing to build the structures along Capitol on the west side of the driveway, which would place it very close to the existing homes, including Melanie's house. A number of other concerns were raised, including safety, loitering, the water table problems, and the current runoff situation, and the damaged street trees. A complete list of the issues that were raised can be found in the agenda packet for tonight's meeting. I see you've put it up. When we asked them why they were proposing to place the buildings on that side of the driveway rather than on the corner, the developer stated that it was Target's preference. And then they expressed a willingness to go back to Target to discuss the location and also to look at our other concerns. So they're going to be returning to our committee at the October meeting after they've had the chance to speak to Target. If you have any other issues and you want, you could just email them to me, although I do see we have a hand, so maybe I should pause for John DeMiglio.
Yes, if there's any comment, we'll take it now. Mr. John DeMiglio.
Yes, thank you. When Target was built, did they have in the drawings that they were going to put more retail places in there? And,
Yes.
and it looks like they also set up for it where the entrance is Target is more towards Gaffey. And it looked like they already planned it, that they were going to put the extra businesses on that site already. Is that correct or not?
It was in the original plan, and the place they had it in the original plan was on the corner of Gaffey and Capitol, not where they're proposing now. And that was approved by the city originally. However, we objected to it, but it was approved by the city originally. However, that approval has been exhausted, so they have to start the approval process over.
Thank you.
Okay, Ted Mann.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, Ted.
Gotcha.
Hi, everyone. Ted Mann here. Lot number 1 on the plan to put a Starbucks and a restaurant immediately behind my house, dumpster 25 feet away from my back wall, and to basically, I think the cartoon word back in the old days was mutilate the property values of myself and everyone down to at least the beginning of the Target building. And again, it's just a completely inconsistent use to put something like that there that's going to run from 6:30 in the morning to 11 at night, closing for the restaurant. And of course, then there's the after closing aggregations and congregations. So I would have to object to the placement in the strongest possible terms. I also think it's a blight on the community to put it there because it's going to cause myriad problems, as I think the committee has already gathered and has put in their statement. Anyway, that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. And if, okay, we're having a couple more comments. I see. Take Pat Nave and then John DeMeglio, and then this is an update. There isn't, I don't think there's specifically an action item on it, but if there is, then we can do that afterwards. So Pat Nave.
You said that the original, what was it you said that expired?
The original entitlement would have allowed them to put something like this at the corner, but that expired.
How does that relate to the categorical exemption that they're seeking now in order to, that they're trying to avoid any environmental?
That's the question I would ask you, Pat Nave.
I'm not sure what it is that they're asking for in terms of their categorical exemption. I think it's infill, the infill exemption. Have we asked them, is that part of what we've asked them as a committee? I've forgotten what we did in committee.
We have a whole long list of questions about the categorical exemption on the second page of the issues.
Okay, thank you.
John DeMeglio.
Yes, I was against Target coming in from the beginning. And also I was against Home Depot coming in the beginning also. But as time has gone on, it hasn't changed or hurt any of our property values in that area at all. So I don't think that that's an argument. I don't think it's going to harm property values in our area. Thank you.
Council Member Dan Dixon.
Diana, I believe that questions like this about the location and the history and split of the lot and all that, the developer deferred to Target. And so I believe that they are going back to Target saying, these people are asking about this, what about it? I believe that's what,
exactly, yes. That's what they're doing. And then they're coming back to us at our October planning committee meeting.
Right. And I must say, just it's history, but I agree with John completely. There was a lot of, frankly, justified resistance to the two major commercial developments. But especially in the case of Target, we worked closely with them and with the council office and the planning department, and came up with a list of modifications which they adhered to, which I think significantly improved the viability of the property and in terms of the community using it and accepting it. And I think it was an example of how neighborhood councils can be very helpful. And here we are 10, 12 years later, ready to go back and say, okay, now you're changing things. We want to know why, and we want to know what we're going to get back in return. That's a good thing, I think.
Okay. I believe this item is an update. It will be revisited at the planning committee, and then we'll come back to the full board again.
Can I make
So in
one
the
more
interest of
comment?
time, we might,
Can I make one more comment?
well, there are other
Instead
people who
of-
want to comment as well.
I
So
understand
yeah,
that. Instead of this
let's come to
coming
order.
down-
Let's come to order. Hold on.
Well,
Hold on,
instead of this
Mr.
coming
DeMeglio.
down-
There are other people who want to make comment other than you. You've made several comments. We really appreciate your comment, but let me take Ted again, since Ted is a member of the public and we are here for the public. So go ahead, Ted Mann.
Yes, I just wanted to maybe hone my point a little bit more. I have consulted with real estate professionals already as to the impact, so not to debate the point too closely at this stage, but they've advised me, but I'm looking at least a six-figure discount on the value of my home, and at least 2 or 3 more homes going north up at Berrywood. Again, we haven't done an official study yet, so everyone can point out that there's nothing in writing that has a signature of the appropriate people underneath it. Secondly, I would hone my point a little bit more, and I think what's more important to me is the quiet enjoyment of my property. That's a term of law and a term of art, and what I really want to have in my backyard is not the cacophony and chaos of those two businesses back there for basically 18 hours a day. I would trade all of that property value simply not to be a victim of putting those things in a completely inappropriate place. So that's my follow-up on that. Thank you.
Okay, we hear you. We're going to revisit this in our committee and then at the full board. And now, Mr. DiMeglio, since we really appreciate your willingness to comment, why don't you go ahead, and then we'll have Mr. Vice President and see if we want to move on.
Okay, I just want to, we always rush these things. We rush the park, we rush the science center. This is a big deal, and it needs some kind of ad hoc committee on this because it's a major deal. And we need to actually get together and see what benefits our area before it's too late. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. I'm going to speak to some committee members after this, and perhaps we could create an ad hoc committee on that. Go ahead, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Yeah, just very briefly, I would tend to agree that the presence of big box stores like Home Depot and Target are a benefit to the community overall, as opposed to having to drive to Carson or Torrance to have the same things. And I could also understand how there would be, a kind of a shock value, the idea of something like that being introduced. But it is not necessarily those of us who all benefit from that who have to pay the price of having it right next to our houses, literally. I enjoy going to Target. I spend a lot of time at Home Depot, but I don't have to live next to it. And if it were next to me, I would promise you my perspective on its utility would be very different. So we need to take into account that, our own personal annoyances aren't necessarily reflected by the people who really have to pay the real-time cost of having this gigantic place next to their house, housing values and nuisance and all that wrapped in.
Okay, very good. Excellent update. In the interest of time, I would like to move on now to the next item, which is the executive committee.
I did have a few more updates. Is that all right?
Oh, yes, it wasn't on the list for the agenda, but yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, it always just says updates of it. The first thing is that even though we talked about 7-Eleven earlier tonight, it appears that remodel is currently on hold. The next thing is that the part of the Gappy beautification project, the North Gappy beautification project, the part that hasn't been completed, we just got word from the port that it's been delayed again, and so now they don't think it's going to go to bid until March of 2022, which is frustrating because we keep trying to get that work done. With regard to the Ponte Vista Road to Mary Starr High School, there have been a lot of questions about that. Chuck Hart has been working on this. The road is complete. The developers are ready to open it. However, Mary Starr wants speed bumps installed before it's opened. So Chuck has gone to the developers and got agreement from the developer to install the speed bumps, but that's what's holding up the opening of it. And then the last thing I'll comment on is that the housing element of the general plan the update of that's going to have a big impact on planning in Los Angeles. If you are interested in learning more, the city has 2 Zoom presentations next week with opportunities for public comment, and the Zoom links are posted on our neighborhood council calendar. Thank you.
Very good. Moving on now to the executive committee report. The executive committee met a few days ago, and all of the executive officers were in attendance for most of it. Because of the recent holiday, we had to reschedule it, so it wasn't held on the usual day, but we had our meeting and we got through it, and then the Youth and Outreach Committee followed, so it was very concise. I'm going to take up the quorum issue first, and not sure if there's an action item that the council wants to take, but essentially,
there's a certain, and if Octaviano Rios is here, he could comment on it, but essentially, since we fashion ourselves as a democracy with majority ruling, the minimum number for us to do business and meet varies from council to council. And for us, I believe it is 9. So there'd have to be 9 of us here for us to officially take any action, like the action we did earlier regarding the transit-oriented communities or anything else like the minutes or the committee appointments. And then, assuming that there were 9 of us here, if there were 5 of us at that meeting that agreed on whatever vote that was before us, then that would be considered the quorum of a quorum, if I'm not mistaken. And so generally our committees meet and the number of council members would be 1 less than that, so as not to kind of make a decision prematurely before the public has a right to give us feedback or give us perspective. So that's my understanding of it. We have Octaviano Rios here, I think, and then we might talk about this at our bylaws committee, and we could always adjust the bylaws or the standing rules. And other council people in the past do not worry about this as much. So it kind of depends on how we want to take the advice from the city attorney and our interpretation of the Brown Act. So I see a couple hands. I think I saw Laurie Jacobs' hand first, and then we'll take Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this quorum of a quorum befuddles me. You know, I've heard it for years, and so we adhered to it because it was handed down to me that that's what we should do. But the more I thought about it, it didn't make any sense to me. Having more than 8 board members at a committee would be sort of stacking the deck, but 5 members doesn't really make a difference. It's still going to go to the board. But basically, I'll abide by whatever the board decides. But as a co-chair of a committee, I need to know what the rule is. And I don't see it anywhere in our bylaws. I don't see it anywhere in our standing rules. Last meeting, you approved adding somebody to youth and outreach, which now puts us technically over the quorum of a quorum. We didn't do anything because we wanted to wait to see what you decided. But I mean, the issues committee has had, you know, more than a quorum for a couple of years now. Although a couple of members haven't shown up for half the year, they still technically had that. So you need to let us know so that we can make a decision. And whatever's decided, Mr. Chair, the rule needs to be enforced one way or another because it hasn't been. And you also have a committee that only has 1 board member, and that doesn't meet the requirements that's outlined in our standing rules. So sustainability needs to get 1 more board member on their committee to legitimately submit motions. So just decide what the rules are and let us all know so that chairs can adhere to them. So thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that, Madam Treasurer, and then Pat Nave.
Yeah, we need to have whichever city attorney representative is going to do it. The city attorney needs to be contacted on this, and you need to find out what the ruling is, because I got word tonight that this ruling came down to most neighborhood councils from the city attorney. And other neighborhood councils in like the Valley area and stuff, they practice this where it's because they said that at the level of having, say, 8 board members on a committee, you're making decisions before they come to the board. And they want to prevent that. You need to make motions and then bring it to the board. The committee shouldn't be making decisions with that many board members at the committee level.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. And then just as a quick aside, I'll say that if there's such a interesting topic that many board members want to weigh in on it, there can always be a special meeting, which is called by either the chair or the majority of members. And more meetings, although it might be tedious for some, we might want to meet more. So that's an option. Instead of having a committee, you can always have a special meeting. But Pat Nave, go ahead.
Yeah, the city attorney has made this advice based on an interpretation of the Brown Act. my problem with what they've done is that they're not consistent throughout the city with the different boards and commissions. So they take a very restrictive view when it comes to neighborhood councils and not so with the other city bodies politic. There are several workarounds for this too, but I think the sentiment that to try to get something consistent throughout the city as a whole, all the commissions and departments would be helpful. But there are there are 3 or 4 workarounds that I can think of, and I'm not sure where's the best place to lay those out. I'd be happy to do it to the executive committee or to bylaws committee or whatever you think's appropriate.
Either of those would be very, very good. Either of those.
Happy to do it. You let me know. You know, just one example. I mean, well, it's better talked about where people can actually weigh in a little bit and think about what you want to do.
Indeed, thank you. We'll be in touch. Mr. Vice President.
Thanks. Yeah, I kind of overlap with Lori's take on this to some degree. I wonder if it really is, it's a matter of access to information, obviously, and the decisions that arise from that. But then at some point, it's kind of an arithmetic problem. That is, assuming we were to have a full board in attendance for a board meeting and were to vote on a particular motion, like unless you'd had more than half of those board members on the committee moving the thing forward, it wouldn't guarantee that the motion was, you know, sort of preordained or passed in advance. Now I can see sort of permutations of that where you would have a larger number of people in attendance at a committee and then a relatively smaller number of people at a board meeting, where you still might have enough of a quorum to vote on something, but enough people have already sort of made their minds up. And so, you know, if that is the sort of thing that sort of nudges us in or out of a safety zone, I wouldn't have any problem following written directions from the city attorney on that. And as Pat has alluded to, and which I absolutely would like to hear more about, I've heard from 2 or 3 people that they've heard from people or they've seen or whatever. And I just want, as has been done for us on so many occasions for so many reasons, for them simply to write something down and have someone sign it. And then we go, okay, well, now it's a rule and we can follow it. It's like we have kind of, you know, conjecture and rumors about what's supposed to happen, and no one seems to have committed to it. I would be more than happy to commit to whatever it is they pass down. But you know, the flip side of it for me would be whatever we can do to increase and improve participation on committees. You know, that is turning a board member away because we already have, you know, we're full up, seems like a shame if it's not something we absolutely have to do. If it produces problems, that is, we seem to be, you know, moving things through with little or no resistance, then that would make itself obvious, I think. But I would like for us to get to that point where we have too many people, you know, if they're bursting at the seams in the committee meetings, you know, that's a good place to start, and to scale it back from there would be preferable. So thank you.
Very good. Okay, I see Councilmember Henry. I see Pat Nave's hand still up. Octaviano Rios is welcome to weigh in as well if he's still here. And then I just want to give, I'm going to give MVP award to our VP Chris Valle for using conjecture, arithmetic, and permutation in your speech, because you're taking me back to college and high school math. So giving me some flashbacks.
I get paid by the letter, so that's
very good. Okay, let's move on.
Quorum of a quorum discussion aside, I believe that some of us should also consider that there are committees where there is a deficit of board members, and there are issues that are piling up, and there is a tremendous need for the talent and the recruitment of our board members to other committees, such as environment and sustainability. Many topics are being moved forward. There are more than can possibly be handled by one group. Thank you very much, Planning and Land Use, for taking on some of these roles. Public safety, I try to partner with them, but it would be very nice if some of the board members would consider that, because everybody has their limited time. And so hopefully we can move forward with valuable committees that can make a difference in the community as well.
Very good. Well, seeing no other hands, I think that I would like to take Mr. Pat Nave's advice and discuss this in either our executive committee or our bylaws and standing rules committee, and then we can get back to you next month. I think that there's enough interest in this and a necessity for this. Okay, we do have Octaviano Rios's hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Rios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, in the past, and I'm not sure if it was included in the orientation sessions for new board members, if it touched on the Brown Act, serial communication, quorums and majority of quorums, or also known as quorum of a quorum. But I'll look for material that has been sent down from the city attorney's office with regards to this topic. But just specific to Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, since each neighborhood council has a different quorum, your quorum is 9. The short answer is your committees shouldn't be made up of more than 4 board members. Not that other board members can't attend, but in terms of the makeup or membership of a committee, more than 4 would, 5 and above would be a majority of a quorum. So I know it's kind of a complicated concept to understand until you kind of figure out the math with regards to the number of board members present, and the majority of those can make a decision. But the idea is to prevent serial communication and allowing the public to observe and to weigh in on discussions that the board is participating in, and that includes committee meetings. So a shortcut to that is titling your committee meetings to allow for board members, other board members to attend beyond 4, to title them joint board and XYZ committee meeting. And that would allow at least board members to participate through public comment, but not to take action as a committee member. But at the very least, that notifies the public that a majority of a quorum will be present potentially at your committee meeting, so they're aware of it at least. Longer answer than I wanted to, Mr. Chair. My apologies.
No, I appreciate it, Octaviano. It's good to hear from you again. In the interest of time, I'd like to go to the Civic U topic now, especially since it actually has to do, from my understanding, with the quorum of a quorum issue. And I think that in the other neighborhood council meetings that I've attended, it was said that there can be 4 members of the council that are appointed, because that would be our quorum of a quorum thing. So, Mr. Secretary, if you'd like, since you're interested in it, you could give us a brief explanation of what Civic U is, and then we can make some appointments on that. If no one else has an interest in that, we'll discuss that. Go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
Well, it's, I put me on the spot here. Briefly, it's about how the government works and how the neighborhood council, and Octaviano may have a better explanation than this, how the government works and how the neighborhood councils can affect it, and I don't know if negotiate's the right word, but negotiate with it and try to get things done. That's, without going to the website where it discusses it, that's as good a definition as I can, or explanation as I can come up with right now. On the topic of appointing people, it may be sort of a moot point unless somebody else besides me attended, because I believe that for knowledge, it's probably wouldn't be a problem. But as far as getting the official certificate or similar about it, you have to attend all 3 sessions, and the first session occurred on the 9th. So unless there's some other board member who has attended it besides me, it may be OBE as far as appointing somebody other than me. But for sheer knowledge, if they will let you register and let you listen in, then I don't think that would be a problem. But I can't make that decision.
Thank you. And as I've said before, an educated democracy, I believe, is the best form of a democracy. So it's very important and a great opportunity for us to get empowered and for you to feel like that you can bring some perspective and knowledge from that. I know that sometimes it's difficult with the amount of time that we have in the day and in our weeks to find a mentor and try to do like a one-on-one kind of mentorship. I was extremely lucky and thankful to have people like Doug Eberhard and Ray Regalado be a little bit of a mentor to me, but it's difficult because you have to seek that out and not everyone has the time for that. So Civic U is actually a great, as the term was used earlier, shortcut. So Octaviano Rios and then Madam Treasurer, go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Octaviano Rios with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So the department would still have some concern with not exceeding the 4-member or the 4-member number for your neighborhood council to not violate the majority of a quorum threshold. Is it too late to get the certificate? Probably, but I think there's still value in appointing tonight your board members to attend, because there's 2 more. They're about 2 hours. And the first one, just real quick, the first session was titled Power Structure of LA City Hall. The second one is The Guts of City Government. And the last one is Mobilizing for Influence. All 3 sessions are facilitated by Professor Rafe Sonnenschein, funny, informative, and an authority on local politics. So you're definitely going to walk away with a lot of information about how to navigate City Hall and how it's structured, and it's all tailored to neighborhood councils. So it's worth your time, absolutely. So I encourage you to fill all 4 seats.
Very good. Melanie, or Madam Treasurer Melanie Lebrecht, go ahead, and then we'll take a show of hands if there are 3 other board members.
Yeah,
I'm
interested in attending this and being appointed as one of the people to go to some of the further sessions without the certificate.
Okay, well, very good. I see another hand. Anyone else? I see 2 council members that would be interested in doing this. Is there a 3rd potential council member?
What were the dates again?
The 23rd and the 30th.
Yeah, it looks like the form I have is from a previous session, so the dates were obviously not accurate.
Well, very good. Then in that case, oh, there's some more hands raised. Let me check that.
I see Lori Jacobs has her hand raised. Did you have a comment?
I see
just
that,
wanted to
but
say
in
that-
the meantime, I would just say that I'm
sorry.
willing to appoint the council members who have their hand raised. But Laurie, go ahead. What's your comment?
I just wanted to say I attended the first 2 years of Civic U, and I highly recommend it. Ray Sonnenschein, besides being a hoot, he's one of the founders that was there when they developed the neighborhood councils. He's a great historian, and he presents the information in a very interesting format, so you don't feel like you're sitting there in a bored classroom. It's really truly fascinating, and if you want to learn more about the history of neighborhood councils, which is very helpful in understanding how to navigate things, I really highly recommend it. That's all I wanted to say.
Very good. Well, those who have their hands raised, you're appointed then. Go ahead and also take the training and Empower yourselves with knowledge. Hooray.
Okay, so just for clarification, the 4 people are going to be Gwen Henry, Thomas Norman, Melanie, and me.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Are we doing a motion for this, or just without objection, or how are we doing this?
No, I'm appointing them with my
Okay.
responsibilities and duties as president.
Okay.
And with that, we'll move on to the bylaws and election report.
Okay, do you want to put up the one that says proposed changes to bylaws? This one that says proposed changes to bylaws.
Yes, stand by.
For those of you who are new, rules concerning neighborhood councils can be made and altered by the city council. So just prior to the recent neighborhood council election, the city adopted new definitions for stakeholders and unilaterally amended all neighborhood council bylaws accordingly. The proposed bylaw changes you have before you tonight are the result of these changes in definitions. The first change relates to the definition of voting stakeholder. That the definition was changed by the city to require that the voter be at least 16 years of age to be a voting stakeholder. At the same time, they established a minimum age. They established an eligibility for the youth seat at ages 14 to 18. So in order to allow 14 and 15-year-olds to actually be eligible for the youth seat, we proposed deleting the sentence in Article 4B that currently states only voting stakeholders may vote for or are eligible for elections to the governing board. So there, elsewhere in the bylaws, it spells out all of the eligibility. The changes being proposed to Article 5, Section 1, subparagraph 8, and the first sentence following the subparagraphs are also being made for the same reason. Article 5, Section 1, composition, subparagraph 8, we're proposing to delete the word voting from the eligibility criteria for the youth seat. So the sentence would then read, one stakeholder who is at least 14 years of age, and so on. In that same section, we're also proposing to amend the first sentence following the numbered subparagraphs to read, as you can see it there, all candidates except for the youth must be qualified as a voting stakeholder except for the youth seat as defined in Article 4B. All candidates, including candidates for the youth seat, must provide the required documentation. So that's the first group, all relating to that voting stakeholder and the 14 and 15-year-olds for the youth seat. The next proposed change is simply to delete the language that was specific to the 2021 election because it's no longer needed. Then there's some proposed changes that involve both Article 4B, which we looked at a minute ago, and Attachment B, and the voting stakeholder. And the proposal is to delete the sentence that says community interest stakeholders shall only be eligible to run and or vote for the at-large seats. This language has a very long history with our neighborhood councils. When our council was first formed, we defined stakeholders as anyone who lived, worked, or owned property or business in Northwest, and anyone who participated in a non-governmental organization or who attended or whose children attended a school in Northwest. The city, in its infinite wisdom, has changed the definition of stakeholders several times. At one point, they imposed a definition of community interest stakeholder that was so broad that it included anyone who drank a cup of coffee at a Starbucks in the area. Doug Epperhart actually tested that out, used that as a basis for voting in elections all over the city, and was able to do so. At that point, we were very concerned about this broad definition of stakeholder. And at the suggestion of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, we amended our bylaws to say that community interest stakeholders could only run for and vote for the at-large seats. We were told we had to have at least one seat they could run for and vote for. The result of that was we then had two ballot types. One ballot type was for anyone who lived, worked, or owned property or a business. They could vote for all the seats. The second ballot type was considered a community interest stakeholder. And that included the people who qualified for our education and community organization seats, but did not live in Northwest. They could only vote for the at-large seats. If you registered to vote online recently, you may remember you were asked up front which type of stakeholder you were. So that brings us up to the present, when just prior to this past election, the city changed the definition of community interest stakeholder again and unilaterally amended our bylaws accordingly. The new definition of community interest stakeholder is a person who affirms a substantial and ongoing participation within the neighborhood council boundaries and who may be in a community organization, such as but not limited to educational, nonprofit, and/or religious organizations. In other words, basically our original definition of stakeholder. So under our current bylaws, there are some individuals who are actually eligible to run for our education and non-governmental seats, but are not eligible to vote for themselves. So deletion of the sentence that says community interest stakeholders shall only be eligible to run and or vote for the at-large seats, and the accompanying changes proposed to attachment B would return us to one ballot type, and it would allow anyone who meets the definition of community interest stakeholder to vote for all the seats on the board. So those are the proposed changes. I'm ready for any questions.
Okay, let's see our hands that we have here. Okay. Councilmember Henry, go ahead.
So no more cup of coffee stakeholders?
No more cup of coffee stakeholders. The city eliminated that.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, this is out of committee. Thank you, Bylaws Committee, for working on this. We'll go to a vote. Mr. Secretary.
Armando Balderrama,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, yes. John DeMiglio,
Abstain.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
Abstain.
Cynthia Gagne,
I'm also abstaining.
Gwen Henry,
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Yes.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Yes.
David Samperio,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle,
Yes.
Christian Guzman,
Yes.
We have 12 ayes, 3 abstentions. It carries.
Thank you.
Present the next topic, please.
Oh, no, the other two you acted on last month. Those shouldn't have been on the agenda for this month. That was.
Oh, well, that's excellent. Very good.
We're done.
In that case, Madam, thank you again. Madam Treasurer, please continue with the Budget and Finance Committee then.
Do we need the meeting minutes or just the MER or what?
I need the MER, the budget. I think they're attached. Yep, there we go. So this is the MER. As you see, whoops, as you see, we have our roller money added, and net available is 36,161.34. We spent this month $411.17 for mailroom. And then $2,858.68 for the postage and mailing for the newsletter. And which brings us down to our total. So this is out of committee. So any discussion? I see no discussion, so call for the vote. David Samperio.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the budget on the paper. Are we voting on approving
The
the budget?
MER, on the MER,
Oh, yes,
the expense report.
yes.
Yes, okay. Tom Norman,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John
Yes, did you hear
Barbera.
me?
Yes, I heard you. John
Okay.
Barbera,
Yes.
Victor,
Yes.
John DeMiglio,
Abstain.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, Kelly,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
and Chris Valier,
Yes.
and Adrianita's not here. Okay. All righty, next is the budget. Scroll down, Chris. Whoops. It was on the same one. It was scrolled down. On the same document. There we go. So this is the budget, and as you see, everything pretty much is the same as last month, except for the expenses that we had. And so that leaves us, like I said, a balance of $36,161.34. This is out of committee, so any discussion? So call for the vote. Dave Samperio,
I'll abstain.
you'll abstain? Okay. Tom Norman,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
John DeMiglio,
No.
no? Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Christian Guzman,
Yes.
Gwen Henry,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Chris Valier.
Yes.
Okay. Next motion is to move out of, on the budget we have here, administrative funds. Out of the administrative funds, the motion is to move $200 out of administrative funds for card stock to make business cards available for all board members. This is out of committee. Any discussion? No discussion. Dave Samperio,
Yes.
Tom Norman,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Victor Christensen,
Yes.
John DeMiglio,
Yes.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Yeah. You there, Cynthia?
Oh, yes.
Christian? Guzman?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. Kelly Miller?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Christian Valier?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. All done.
Excellent. Council Member Dan Dixon, please give us a community issues report. Or John Barbera,
Thank you.
whichever one of you would like to.
Thank you. Well, I'll start.
Good.
Let me make sure the buttons are pushed here. Sorry. Hello.
So many buttons
In the interest of
always.
time, this will be a, well, you got to, if you know which ones to push, it's not hard. In the interest of time, clock on the wall and all that, I'll hit just some highlights and a couple of comments. Our meeting was primarily discussion, no action items. The skate park under the freeway is coming along. The association is working on insurance documents, and they hope to start repairs to the facility by fall. We noticed the appalling conditions in the parking lot around it some time ago. It was cleaned up once. It's been cleaned up again in the last 2 weeks. And I understand the city is painting out graffiti on the freeway columns and other masonry work at the park. And I do want to make sure we have a clarification as to who will take care of that once the park is operating again. John and I have taken up a sort of a field trip approach to some things. If we have a request for service from a stakeholder or homeowner, we try to go out and see them. And not long ago, we went to see a gentleman on Patton Street between 8th and 9th, Patton Avenue between 8th and 9th Street, to check on some things. And his laundry list included some basic tree trimming to make a stop sign more visible. And his desire to install a stop sign on Patton Avenue at 8th Street to slow down traffic. Well, we listened to him, and then he talked about the condition of the sidewalk in front of his house, which is perfectly appalling. It's one of the worst you'll see in San Pedro. But it led to a discussion of the gigantic ficus tree in the parkway, which beautifully shades and cools the street, but has destroyed the sidewalk in front of his neighbor's home. And so in listening to him and talking to him, I think we've reached a general idea that often what we can do for these folks is speak to them realistically about what they might expect if they request a city service. We want to talk to them about how they can go about getting it through 311 or through the council office or through a specific department. But we want them to be realistic about what might happen if the service they're asking for is actually undertaken. And you can imagine with a historic tree in the parkway, cutting it or modifying its root system to repair the sidewalk could be catastrophic to the tree. So we want people to be aware of that and understand that there's a huge process that needs to be followed in order for some of these things to come to fruition. I don't know if fruition counts as one of your words, Mr. President, but we talked to him, and that led us to think that we want to hear from specific stakeholders, homeowners, and citizens and neighbors about the issues they face, but we really want to focus with them on how to go about getting corrective action, but also what might be a result and what to watch for and what to be concerned about as they try to go through the process. In other words, it's the old be careful what you wish for, because it can come back to bite you in these matters. This similarly, I think, applies to the issue of train noise. And I won't go into all of that right now. The whole train noise issue is something we're proceeding forward with. And it may be a joint action with the port committee. We're in the process of pulling that together. But I want to single out for praise tonight our colleague, John DeMaglio, who really stepped up and gave us good information about the operations of the port, about the nature of transportation modalities in the port right now, what's happening with truck traffic and train traffic, and why the port business is building as it is. John offered from his boots on the ground observations, real insight into how the shift of the use of the Panama Canal, for instance, is going to change the level of operations here in the port. I was really surprised by some of the things he said, and I find them absolutely credible. I'm really pleased that he offered those insights, and I want to write a little bit about it in our next committee get together and pass along a report to you folks. Also, let's see. Oh, the defense fuel supply point on Gaffey continues unresolved. It's still negotiating, but I want to point out that since there's some general conclusions we're drawing here, we want to hear from our neighbors and stakeholders about what they see that needs to be worked on or to be concerned about in the neighborhood. But we also are coming to the realization, and I know many of you have known this for years, that the neighborhood council system operates to provide information and to the citizens and to provide guidance to the city. But there are certain issues that we are up against, which simply cannot be moved forward any more quickly than they can be moved forward. When the Navy is ready to make a decision in dealing with the leasing of that property, we will hear about it and we will take steps to respond appropriately. But I think John and I are both interested in the fact that we need to hear about things, we need to keep track of them, we need to stay on top of them, but it's difficult to get ahead of issues in our constituted roles as neighborhood councils. So those are just some general observations. And this month on the 28th should be an interesting meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Excellent report. We'll move on now to Madam Treasurer with the Public Safety Committee report.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do like Dan did and just give a brief rundown on this. So one of the issues that was brought up at our meeting was with Target and the sludge that's in front of it and a lot of the larvae. There's a lot of mosquito larvae and grass growing up really abundantly in sludge. I called street services several times and did like 4311 to get it taken care of, and they kept saying completed, you know, the same thing that stakeholders go through, and couldn't get it clean. So what ended up happening is I contacted the head of street services and he got somebody out here, but there's, as we know, a current problem because it's high water table and the drains weren't done right when they built Target, and so it fills up and it clogs, and if the trash isn't picked up, then it clogs it even worse and the grass grows, etc. So the vector control is coming out regularly right now to spray it. And so that's helping that. Another problem that we have is coyotes are abundant in the area. Large amounts of coyotes all over in the gardens, on all through Tape area. They've been inside the gated community of Harbor Highlands. So they're jumping walls. I caught one up on the back of my wall, just standing up there, and I'm like, holy camoli. But they're omnivores, and so they come for trash, they come for fruit. If you leave any pet food out, you leave any water out, they're attracted to that. We're going to be doing an article in our newsletter about coyotes to address it for the stakeholders. Other thing is, there's been a big uptick that was discussed about tagging, of gang tagging in the area. There's one particular gang group from Park Western that seems to be doing a lot of the tagging. And I caught one of them on a camera at the park tagging on my cameras, and he got arrested, and they put him in a diversion program to help to divert him from gangs. But there's a large group of them that are going around tagging all around Western. They got the gated community, both walls. They've got in the park, they've got all over in Gaffey. They tagged the Strawberry people down on 9th Street, their whole side of their thing for strawberries that they have up there at that farm. Their stuff was all tagged. So it's really something we need to address. And one of the things I was told by the LAPD was that we have to report it initially right away to 311, to the graffiti app. And they'll get out right away. And Lori Jacobs experienced this where she reported it right away and they were out almost the next day and removed it. And that's the thing, we need to get it removed almost immediately so they don't get the pleasure of having it up there. Another problem is on Capitol Drive, there seems to be a problem with idling trucks, and there's ordinances with it, but people have been noticing as they leave in the morning that the trucks are parking in the middle of Capitol and sitting there idling at early hours in the morning. Or they park in front of Target where signs are posted that say no parking at all, ever. And so what's going to happen, I think, is public safety will have to draft a letter to Joe's office and the transportation department that they address this, and I'll write that up and have it presented at the next public safety meeting. There's a big concern too environmentally with the pileup of ships. I guess there's 32 ships that are backed up in the harbor because they aren't using the Panama Canal anymore right now. They're directing all the ships through San Pedro. And so that's causing a lot of pollution. And so we need to have some sort of monitoring back online to monitor that type of stuff that the ships are throwing off of their fossil fuel and all. And that was it.
All right. Our president has given the reins, as it were, to me. So we're going to continue to sustainability. Gwen, do you have a report prepared, and do you need any supporting documents on screen?
No, not really. The items are, my report is in the file, and everyone can read it. Essentially, you know, as we had just discussed, we don't have a lot of people in our committee that are on the board, and one of the things that has been discussed is that very few people know what sustainability is, and it's difficult to grasp on that. Well, first off, where you will see reports from the Environmental and Sustainability Committee soon. I hope to have that on the website. We have ascertained a good definition of sustainability, and we will have that definition up on the website as well. If you want me, I'll just basically say, this is what it is that we agreed upon. Sustainability is practicing a balance between meeting all of our present needs with making decisions that ensure the future health of the earth and the well-being of future generations. So it's a tricky balance. Comes from the United Nations, and there's a long history. We discussed the history of where sustainability came from, and I will provide those documents up as well. And we also have a vision statement of our committee aims to inspire and encourage our community towards a more just, sustainable, and balanced way of life. But our action statement is really where I hope people will get engaged. And that's, we have a great responsibility for educating people on clean air, clean water, renewable and clean energy sources, reducing waste and recycling and conserving energy. And I hope that we can create engaging activities like we used to in getting everybody involved with this. One of the things that was proposed was possibly making a contest within youth to come up with little videos that explain some of these concepts. There's you know, a lot of the STEM education that is going on right now, and the science education, especially biology, is very much with climate change and the ideas of sustainability, and it's pretty much on every young person's mind to have a future. So in regards to, bear with me.
All right, we've only got a couple more minutes before the meeting is over. Did you have anything else that was relatively pressing to include?
No,
More committees.
as because we do not have the members to take on action. I've been collaborating with others. One thing that for a future item is that Peck Park, Leland Park, and it's being directed to community issues as well as planning and land use, that there is funding that's been allotted to Parks and Recs maintenance projects. And now we really should be responsible in getting some of that funding in the next, some of those funds to improve and repair our parks. There's been a lot of neglect. That money's been sat on. There have been other neighborhood councils that have gotten funding for that.
Okay, we only have a couple of minutes left. We still have 2 more committees who'd like to report.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, real briefly, I will give a brief update on youth and outreach. Essentially, we're still in our production process for the upcoming newsletter. We've more or less, we have an outline of what content we'll be including. Some of this is in the minutes here. Everybody, it's been more or less outlined, and we're just going to be filling in the content within the next week or so. Just an ongoing call for any social media content. So if you have activity in your committees, things that are coming up, things that you learn about, any sort of coordination or anything that is resonant with other city or county agencies, any programs or whatever. If you have any content on that is an idea for a social media post or a clip art or whatever that you'd like to direct to us, you can direct that to me or someone else in Youth and Outreach, and we will kind of schedule and package that for publication. Obviously, all of our in-person events are on hold, as are a lot of other in-person things, but we have reached out to people at parks at Bogdanovich, and they are interested in pursuing these things in the future. And we will be working with them when we have the opportunity. Let me recognize Lori Jacobs. Go ahead.
Thanks. Just a quick reminder that we're asked the 6 new board members to turn in a headshot and a short bio, 50 words or less. Thank you, Mr. Samperio. Thank you, Dr. Norman. Those are the only ones I've received so far. Deadline is September 20th. Same with the articles for people. We're not going to follow up. We're already having trouble squeezing everything into the newsletter. So please get everything into us. Get to me by September 20th. Thank you. And thanks, Chris, for stepping in.
No problem. Yeah, and about the headshots, please, if you those can be directed to me. I make them as large as possible in terms of resolution and a plain background, more or less, you looking to camera. We're going to possibly clone a background in with the other photos to make them look similar, but I'd like good lighting and as large a photo as you can deliver for me. Thank you. And I do have space here for, is there any report or commentary from the port committee? Craig? Okay. Oh, there he is.
Pardon me.
It's okay.
Yeah, I had to flick it back on. I wasn't expecting. We had a brief meeting just going over projects that have been basically sitting out there in nowhere land, not being finished, that we were dealing with the port. We did discuss, Melanie, there isn't 28 or 38 ships out there. There's actually 50 from the last count I get. They say they're sitting out there about 8 days. We have we commented about, they put off doing any of their action plans on pollution till 2022. I don't think that's appropriate. I think we as in a lot of things are waiting for them to move before we do anything. And we're sitting here we haven't had our park finished. We haven't had the park named. That's the strip park on Gaffey. Just all these things. And, we've passed today all these measures and stuff like that. And there's stuff that we haven't finished from 10 years ago. And we take on more things, we pass more measures, and nothing of the old stuff gets accomplished. Too many people are taking ownership of things, my opinion, and not realizing that other parts of the council can and should be taking over because it's not going anywhere. We need to be more proactive is my point of view on this. And it was part of the discussion in the board meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think right now at the port complex altogether with the volumes like at a continuously record high, getting their attention is going to be very, very difficult because, when business is great as it is, and they've got a bunch of these logistical problems, these other things get pushed farther back. But again, this is the time for people, I think, to organize and, honestly push harder. I see a hand from Gwen and John. We are 5 minutes over, so please make these very brief. And if not, I will briefify them for you. Gwen, go.
One, I hope that this meeting is held for a moment so that we can copy the comment area for the meeting. Also, we need to discuss being able to respond quickly to things that are on a very short scale. There was a draft environmental impact report that was posted on August 12th in the Port of Los Angeles EIRs for public comment. There was no way to react to it properly because of the timing of our meetings. And so we need to address being able to ask for things within a 30-day period to be able to act as a board or in some method that we can send them a letter to please postpone the end of the public comment period. Can we do this in the executive meeting? Or?
Yeah, I think that would be best. Like we would literally figure out where to put that on the agenda at the next executive meeting. So let's move on. I see John DeMaglio's hand, and then I see Pat, who's going to close us out.
Yes, record numbers of ships in port, whether they're working or not, docked. Record numbers of ships outside, anchored. Record numbers of ships just drifting. And we get this report from Marine Exchange. So if Craig wants to get with Matthew, he's savvy on all that, how to get to Marine Exchange and how to find all the information on that. 140 vessels in port right now.
7 are container ships.
87 are container ships.
60 are being loaded by discharge.
60 are being worked. And then the ones that are out anchors and everything else, but 80s are in drift area. It's just a crazy number. But if Craig wants to get with Matthew and get with the Marine Exchange, and you can get the numbers, the exact numbers from them. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that is very shocking and useful information. All right, Pat, please go ahead, and that'll be our last comment.
Gwen is absolutely right that there needs to be something established so that the port committee and get notice of these environmental or these projects that are being undertaken. Augie listed a bunch of projects that are coming up, and it used to be in the past, the port committee would get those notices and it would take up the environmental documents and comment on them. And that needs to be reestablished. I don't know that it needs to go through an executive committee or anything, Chris. It just seems to me that maybe the port chairs need to ask the port to be put on a mailing list for those things and then schedule a meeting so that that these projects can be commented on.
I would tend to agree. Despite my own profession and relationship with the ports, my participation or knowledge of what's going on in the port community has been minimal. And so personally, I'm going to step up and try and be more involved and more knowledgeable. But maybe it's a good time to take this this committee that's just been brought back online and put a bit more of the board's resources into, kind of hopefully getting us on their radar, because this, this is as good a time as any to try and get their attention. Could someone please offer a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Seconded by Gwen.
Second.
That was John and Gwen. And so thank you,
Thomas.
everyone.
Thomas
Oh,
and
Thomas,
Gwen.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at everybody at the same time. Well, thank you, everybody, for a productive and informative meeting. Thanks for all of our high school attendees who I'm assuming are mostly gone. And
Don't you
we'll
need to
see
take
you-
the vote? You put the first, second, then you have to take the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Craig. Thank you. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting. I guess that was the discussion part, right?
Aye.
Aye.
Those who'd like to hang around and talk more?
Hold the Q&A session so we can copy it. There was some feedback from stakeholders in that. I believe that would be worthy. I will copy it and then I will mail it kind of.
I'll keep it live. You let me know when you've gotten it.
Thank you.
Okay, so any opposition to ending the meeting at this time? All right, thank you much. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you this time next month, if not sooner, at committee or in the supermarket or whatever. Take it easy.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Right.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for the attendees. See you.
All right. Oh, Gwen, you're still there. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know who was taking the attendance as well, but there were a lot of people who kind of threw themselves in there, even at the very end. Students.
Oh, I think it might have been, well, it was probably Lori, but it might have been Melanie as well.
Yeah.
Well, I asked Aaron Brunke to make sure that the students put their first and last names in there. And then when they all, oh, that's right, in the beginning, they had their hands up, and I believe Lori got them at that point.
Yeah, and yeah, there's some links and things like that.
Oh, I didn't even realize there were controls for the Q&A. All right, Armando, are you still with us?
And Chris, at some time in the future, if we could, yeah, I needed some advice as the new procedures for getting things on